Good morning. I'm going to call this session of the Board of Revision to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory, and it's the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. With me, farthest to my left, is Maurice Therian. Right next to me is Lynn Nesbitt. My name is Harvey Diamond. The assessor is Mr. Rob Lukey, and our assistant is Valhan Rojo. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rolls in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision have been requested are described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statement that the applicants or the assessors make at this hearing must be sworn to testimony, and anyone speaking to those matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparative assessments of properties are not considered as evidence by our board. Our board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence that we hear, and that alone, and we issue written orders that we mail to each party as soon as possible. Please note that our decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification of the Court of Queen's Bench, and the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation. And should a party wish to appeal, information how to do so will be included with our order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm matters to be addressed to each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by any question the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by any questions. Each party will be given an opportunity to summarize if they wish to do so. Once all the evidence upon an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The person will repeat for every matter on the agenda. Today, the session will be closed after all applications have been heard, and we will deliberate in private to make our decision. You will receive our order by written mail as soon as possible. And this hearing is being recorded and will form part of a public record. Thank you. We can swear in the parties.
Robert Alvarez.
And you swear the amount of consent to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please state your full name.
And you talk.
And you swear the events about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The first matter on the docket this morning is 50 Alpine Avenue. And Mr. Lukey, you can proceed when you're ready to do so.
First property, 50 Alpine Avenue, is roll number 08002128200. We have 11-story high-rise masonry building built in 1970. There's 186 suites. Page 2, the returns are all up to date, income and expense statements, no recent sales in history. And on page 3, we value this property as we do all of them on the income approach. So there's 10 bachelors, 77 one-bedrooms, 99 two-bedrooms, for a total of 186. Which matches the front, that's good. Our model parameters are effective gross income of $2,829,680, 45% expense ratio, expenses of $1,273,356, and our net income is capitalized for this style of building at 5.3%. We arrive at a value of $29,365 rounded, or 150, almost 158,000 per unit. Page 4. These are just some comparable rents that I chose. That isn't how the model is made up, but shows our rent is in line. Page 5 is our model cap rates. And page 5A, we've included actual, the second last chart is some comparable, or at least cap rate sales. And the rest is just income and expense information. And I would ask that you maintain the assessment of $29,365,000.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, do you have any questions of the assessor?
Yes, your page 4, your rent comparables. Now, the rent you have for subjects is $1,302. Isn't that kind of high in relation to CMHC average rents, which would probably be around $1,000?
I don't know what the CMHC average is. This is, I would say, above average building for sure.
Your comparables are built 2006, so three of them 1999, 2011 versus subject 1970s. Would you say those comparables are much newer and not comparable?
Some are newer in age,
The one comparable number 3, similar age. Are you aware of whether this property was renovated?
No.
The suite mix for that property is 42 one bedroom and 84 two bedrooms. About 2/3 are 2 bedrooms. Is the subject 2/3 or more like half and half?
Well, I don't know what the percent is. I'd have to figure it out, but there's 99 two bedrooms and 77 one bedrooms.
And 10 bachelors. So would you say the suite mix for subjects is inferior?
Could be, yeah.
All questions?
Thank you. Mr. Darian, do you have any questions of the assessor?
Are you aware if this building has been renovated recently, Mr. Button?
No, I don't know. I haven't been in any of the buildings that we have today.
Okay, including the subject.
Right.
And your cap rate on page 5, I guess you're using the 80th percentile 530 on multifamily. Is that what you're using? I see 490 to 530. Have I got the right column here?
I think you do. That's right. This is, in my opinion, these are prime buildings. High-rise masonry buildings are in high demand. They're seldom on the market. I don't think either of us have any cap rate sales for them.
I was just confirming that I have the right slug that I have.
They used to these bifocal, or whatever you call them, lenses.
Progressive.
Progressive. I guess I'm non-progressive.
Any other questions?
No, that's all I had.
Has this been any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, just going back to your cap rate again, you said for this type of building, so is the construction, the masonry construction the prime driver for this cap rate, or what does age or?
Masonry high-rise buildings are typically, in my opinion, at least, the most sought after.
Can you tell me why? Just educate me.
Well,
a little bit.
it's, they're, I guess for one thing, the masonry lasts a long time. You know, you have a high life expectancy for masonry as opposed to the wood frame buildings.
What is its life expectancy typically versus wood?
I'm not sure exactly, depending what charts you use, but they can be, like the buildings that I've seen and been in, built in the 70s, they can virtually be renovated and last a long time.
Okay.
You know, they're very solid. You don't get the wood rotting and that type of thing. They're efficient that, you know, one stack will go up and feed all the suites. The underground parquet is a high demand, you know, especially on days like this. So,
Okay, and you mentioned that your workup is all model driven?
I should, and this will be the same for all of them. The model creates an assessment for the properties. But then we have a process that lasts for several months, and we call it the percent change reports. So what we do is all the apartment staff actually looks at them. They take the income and expense statements and compare them to the model, and we make changes where necessary. I should say that, you know, there's thousands of apartment blocks, so we don't get to every one, but we get to a lot of them.
And did you do it for this particular property?
It's hard to tell. You know, we're awfully close, and
Can you tell me
I don't-
where you were close?
well, the expense ratio of 45% is probably changed. Like that's not a normal. Usually it's like 45 point something or whatever. So somebody most likely had a look at this and changed it. We don't go to the extent of stabilizing years of income and expense statements for each one, but we look at the most recent income and expense statement and compare it to our model, and we make changes where necessary. I'm suspecting that this one was factored, but I can't say for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lucky, I'm going to refer you to the owner's return of information, and the first page basically, because Mr. DuPont asked you about whether your rents seem to be a little high. So I'm going to point out that the owner has reported that they have 10 bachelors that they rent for $724 a month, which is lower than our average. 15. That's your the first page of the owner's return.
Right after page 6.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they have 55 one-bedrooms that rents for about $1150 or $1160.
Right.
So it's again a little bit lower than your average.
Mm-hmm.
99 two-bedrooms, which are $1319, which is a little higher than your average. And I'm not sure what 22 LIBs are, but they rent, whatever they are, they rent for $1195 or almost $1,200. Correct? You see that?
It's probably like large something bed.
Yeah, whatever, but we know that there are 22, it doesn't mean what we call them.
Right.
We see what they rent for, so I'm looking for the average rents here.
Sure.
Also, I see that you didn't describe anything for parking,
Right.
and the landlord or the owner does indicate that they have $25 a month for indoor parking they charge, and there's 186 indoor stalls, which you haven't put any potential on in your workup.
I should say that our average monthly rent includes everything.
Okay,
So it includes parking,
Yeah.
laundry,
Oh, yeah.
everything. We look at one number. And if you look at Yeah, so there's, I'm thinking that this is an average too, like, it's not scientific, but, you know, somebody wrote down what
You know,
kind of an average rent would be, but that doesn't include parking, laundry.
absolutely, they
you
show
know.
the total revenue. If we divided that by the number of suites and then by 12, we basically get see how close you are. And number of suites, so.
You got,
they
so
show-
it's the total income, you're right,
Yeah.
divided by the number of suites, that's what we.
So they showed a total income of almost $3.5 million a year on page number, on the first annual statement.
Right.
Actually, $3,496,000.
How much, 496?
Yep. So if we divide that by 12 and then by number of suites, we can actually get a pretty accurate average price per suite.
Yeah, except for they have something they call mortgage proceeds, I don't know what that is.
Well, I'm not sure what that is, but.
And, you know, thus shows our, you know, what we're dealing with at, sitting at our desk, looking at.
For sure,
computers.
everybody has different accounting, so I know it's hard to fit square pegs into round holes, I know.
Sometimes.
But we're trying to do that, so we.
Yeah, I
can-
know.
Yeah, and so I think we have the information with us to do so, anyway. Okay, I'm sort of pointing out more than questioning, but you
Sure.
agree that with those figures then, obviously, they're part of your presentation. I'm sure Mr. DuPont will have to agree with them too, because they're from his source.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
on the $25 you're referring to, I see second stall at $25. Is it only the second stall that they're referring to? They showed a 186 up there. I'm just trying to clarify that.
Well, I do see that they do have a chart in their page number, the first page, they do show total parking revenue for the year.
Oh, they do, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, thanks. Oh, yeah, I see.
yeah. Okay, Mr. DuPont. Bless you.
Oh, I'd like to give a rebuttal evidence on the assessors cap rate.
Thank you.
Would this be for all of your properties, or just?
Yes, for all the properties today. Do you want more of
Well,
those?
yeah, I guess that's
You've probably seen this because they come out with this rebuttal report a while back, but the, page 2, we give the summary, so the, point number 1 says precedent from municipal board. State with the 4 remaining comparables, sufficient concerns were raised by appellant on 3 of them regarding the purchaser's intention to significantly renovate or alter their structures. The appellant produced evidence from the purchasers makes the board question the use of the purchase price and income information. So the board disallowed the assessor's cap rates where there was
Oh, hold
intention to
it,
renovate.
the board didn't disallow our cap rates, that's not what came from that. I object to you saying they disallowed our cap rates.
It makes the board question the use of the purchase price and income information. If you want to expand that to the point, if you look at the decision, which I have underlined, the board disregarded the assessor's cap rates and used ours 100%. Sale number 1, 191 Roque, it's purchase to intent to renovate. This in our appendix, the property sale questionnaire itself, it said the intent to renovate. The rents were relatively low at $663 for 1 bedroom. 394 Talbot, also in appendix, purchased with the intent to renovate. As the property manager states, it was intent to renovate, and our email, and then the questionnaire for 2016 shows rents of $537 and $653, and the recent website says totally renovated, but rents of $800 to $900.
Sorry, but where are you now, you lost?
The first page, I'm reading the summary,
But, okay.
number 3.
Page what?
2?
Page 2?
Okay,
Yes, here.
Oh, here. There's 2 page 2s, so,
Oh, yeah, that's the appendix, it's the board order, yeah. Yeah, page 2, so I'm going through the summary, and the appendix, you can look at later. So, the point number 2, the 191 vote is the questionnaire, said the intent to renovate, add low rents. Point number 3, 294 Talbot, says the email from Asteroid said the intent to renovate, and present website says totally renovated, and the rents have gone up by $300. 285 Maxwell, email from purchasers that the intent to renovate, and it confirms renovation of $413,000, and intention to raise rents over 3 years, and the 2018 questionnaire, which we included, shows, confirms that the kitchen and bathroom renovation is worth $413,000. Sale number 4 for the assessor 353 ward, we have direct evidence showing just 5.13% cap rate. We showed the background data and the calculations, and the assessor does not. The assessor has burden of proof, does not show up any workup or supporting documents, therefore the cap rate should not be considered. Just go through the appendix quickly. So the page 4 is the start of 207 Watson, municipal board decision on that property. And I've underlined some parts of page 6, which is page 3 of the board. It says online that the assessor, Mr. Lucky, had comparables where they had intent to remodel or renovate were included. Page 7, underline, I said the cap rate is determined from the existing income stream from any property purchased with the intention to renovate or convert to condominium should not be considered. These purchasers do not have typical motivations. And the cap rate calculation is likely lower as does not consider the post-renovation income model for total return, total investment. Page 8, top says based on those sales, we had cap rates of 6.5 for 1946 plus and 6 for 1975. And the bottom page 9, the board chose the same cap rates that we had, so you agree with our cap rate. And the top of page 9 was part of the quote that I had at the beginning. The board questions the use of those properties where they had intent to renovate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The board does not accept that any intention of renovation should disqualify property sale. A renovation must be a significant financial investment on the part of the property owner that one will cause future rents to substantially increase. So therefore, yeah, some kind of renovations when they're buying, which would increase the rents, that would disqualify it. So that's my rebuttal.
okay, any questions on rebuttal, Mr. Lucky?
so this decision you're talking about, it should be pointed out.
Well, you're asking a question right now, you can argue later, if you have a question, you can.
I'm not arguing.
Pose it as a
I'm-
question.
I'm starting to ask a question.
Okay, pose it as a question, that's fine.
So this property here, it's for 2012 reference year?
The 2012 assessment.
So the assessment year was 2012. So the cap rate of 6% doesn't relate to 2020, does it?
Absolutely not, I'm not saying it does.
So
And
the
I
6% cap rate for this 2012 property has no bearing for 2020.
Absolutely not, I'm not showing
Okay.
that for that
I just
reason, I'm
wanted to
just showing
clarify
that, I'm just showing for an intention to renovate.
And this is one of 3 decisions on that matter. The other 2 both stated for Ronald and Mandalay that using buildings that had renovations is just fine. Didn't they disagree with you in both Ronald and Mandalay?
And I went for a third time, and the
The
third time.
third, so the one time you got this decision, but the other 2 times they disagreed.
The last time is one that counts.
Well, do you, okay.
Any other questions, Mr. Lucky?
I just got this now. so
Yeah, no, I
I'd
understand,
like to look
and I'm
through
not,
it.
I'll give you time to look it over if you would like to do so. We're not gonna rush this.
No,
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions of the applicant on the rebuttal?
Me?
Yeah.
No
No?
questions, thank you.
Ms. Isbeth, do you have
I'm
any?
sorry.
Okay. And I don't either because Mr. Lucky asked my question, so, thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to start with the cap rate study itself.
Okay? I thought you just did that.
What was at the bottom?
Oh, your cap rate study.
Yeah, my cap rate
Okay,
study.
this is rebuttal, okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're right.
Oops, so dumb. No worries. I had so much paper I got it over.
that's okay.
Are you,
It happens all the time.
Sorry about that.
your name,
No, thank you.
If you can go to page 3, that's a summary of our cap rates and our conclusions. If you look at the far right where they have average cap rate, you'll see 5.91%. Our original cap rate study had 5.92, so this is a newer version. And what we've done differently is that we incorporated the evidence that the assessor had filed as rebuttal to our cap rate initially. That they had given us extra financial statements, etc. So now we've included that as part of our statement. So as an example, so if you go to the actual cap rate, page 6 of 210 St. Mary's, under remarks, it says revised 2015 to 2016 questionnaire from assessor rebuttal. Previously, we had 2015, 2016 from Collier's pro forma. So we have the same years, except now we have the actual, our source is the questionnaire instead of Collier's. The next cap rate, 403 St. Anne's. That one was not changed, so I don't have anything in remarks about the assessor's data.
Sorry, so what was the cap rate before on St. Mary's?
I have no idea, I don't have it here.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
In the end, the cap rate changed by 1/100ths of
Oh,
1%.
okay.
So it was 5.92, it's now 5.91. Page 9 and 512 Balmoral, it said we revised that 2015 to 2017 questionnaire. Previously, we had 2015, 2016 from Collier's, so before we had 2 years, now we have 3 years. Now page 10, so 215 La Vérendrye at the bottom, it says revised to add 2017 IE from the assessor rebuttal. It's sold March 2017. The next one, 277 Langside, says at the bottom, revised to add 2015, 2017 questionnaire from assessor rebuttal. Previously had 2015, 2016 from College pro forma. 718 Beach, we added 2016 part 2017 from assessor rebuttal. Pro forma provided by Ironclad Developments to Altus RVA. RVAs are research and evaluation advisories, our appraisal department. We didn't change 100 Southview. So back to page 3, so we have the cap rates for each individual property shown. We have 3 new properties, the last 3, 333 Ward, 718 Beach, 100 Southview, built 2006, 2014, 2014. And those are 5.13, 5.42, and 5.59, so that gives you the low end of the cap rate, because they're the superior properties. And those properties average 5.38%. And the cap rate for age 1964-76 is 6.15. So based on our evidence, which we have well supported, we'll have cap rate, which we choose the cap rate on page 3 for these age groups. 46 to 59, we have 6.25, 60 to 1997, 6%, 1998, plus 5.25, so that's from the newer properties. So, can you go to the main report, 50 Alpine? Page 1 shows a photo, high rise, the balcony. Page 2 shows the aerial photo, and 3 shows the map as to where it is. So it's near Travel Lodge on Trans-Canada. 5, that we see burden proofs on the assessor, and the municipal board stated should be site specific, and this board has been going site specific for a long time also. We have the cap rates here, so the first subject, the assessor is using 5.3%, and we're using 6% based on our cap rate study. Page 7, our revenue and expense page. To line 1, you'll see the potential gross rent, and then they have discounts, line 2, which we allow naturally, and so line 3, we have potential rents after discounts. 2017 to 638, that's what we stabilize at. Now the Sussex statements do not calculate or show vacancy, so therefore that 268 includes vacancy, so we don't allow anything for vacancy because it's already baked in. Then we have laundry and parking for 2017. Miscellaneous income, we use a 3-year average, which is normal to use 3-year average when you have things like miscellaneous income, sundry expenses, and or waste and snow, which can vary, it can be erratic, so these types of items we use 3-year average. So for insurance, we stabilize at 2017. Management fees always at 5%. Professional fees and office is at the 3-year average. Advertising and leasing is at 3-year average. Utilities is normally at the 2017, which we have done. Cable is also at 2017, which captures the current rates as of 2017. Repair maintenance, we show 5 years. On most properties, we try to get in 5 years. And in 5 years, average 1889, that's what we stabilize at, 1889 per suite. Caretaker stabilized at actual, and taxes at actual 2017. And we divide by 6% cap rate, so we get a value of 23,639,000. I'd like to go to the appendix now. Page 12 is the start of our financials. You'll see that it has the rents up there, and it shows the discounts 121. Naturally, we don't include mortgage proceeds or prepaid, so we disallow those 2 items. Now we have some notes on the statements that say how we arrive at that. Now the repair and maintenance, the Sussex provide a lot of details, a lot of breakdown. So therefore we have all those here with the, we made an X on the miscellaneous exterior of 724,000. The garbage is WS, waste and snow, so we excluded it from there and put it to its own category, waste and snow. Page 13, we allow the landscape maintenance as part of the RM. Now under payroll, with Sussex, they always have some payroll related to R&M. So the wages, salaries, and wages cleaning, that's for caretakers, so we categorize that caretakers and wages, miscellaneous interior, painting, decorating, and workers' compensation, or just these two are repair maintenance, the workers' compensation is caretaker. So that's all the items that go in the repair and maintenance. Page 15 for 2016, you with the same process, same items. I do change on page 18. They have appliance purchase, 164,000 for that year. So then written on the right, have appliances. 2017 was 7,982, which is very low. Forget how many suites now.
Sorry, Brian?
Yeah, it's 186 suites, so I'm on page 18. For 2016, you had 25,000, and for appliances, and then 2015, which is this page, they have 164,000, and the next year they had 134,000, and 2013 is down to 16,000, so it's 349,000 over the 5 years. Divided by 186 suites is 376. And we see that exceeds a normal of 167, which will go evident shortly, which would be 31062. The average 2013, 16, and 17, excluding the 2 high years, 15 and 14, is 16,803. So the total for those 3 years is 50,000. And I subtract 155,000, which is the normal, so it leaves a balance 104,000 for the other 3 years. So then that's 52,451 stabilization for those 2 years. So by doing it that way, well, it's a lot of calculations, but in the end, I'm allowing a maximum over the 5 years of 167 per suite. Now, page 19. We did the same thing with plumbing. The plumbing comes out high at 102,000. Instead of disallowing plumbing in total, we should allow a normal. So that we do the 2017, 16, all the years shown that what the plumbing was, 29,000, 59, 102, 136, and 40. And the average excluding 2014, 2015 is 43,247. So that's what we've allowed by showing the 2 high years. So page 21, so for 2014, we've allowed the appliance at 52,541, which was in our previous calculation, so we end up with 167 per suite per year. And the plumbing, we allowed at 43,000, as per our previous calculations. For 2013, further calculations. On page 25, we have an email from me to everybody, and I refer to the email we got from K4. Now, we've asked K4 what was the average cost for appliances and flooring. And K4 was nice enough to give us that information, so they give us an idea what we should allow as a maximum. So K4 states the average cost of flooring was $3,616 for 1 bedroom, $4,383 for 2 bedroom, and for an average suite mix of half 1 and half 2 is $4,000 per suite. At a 10-year life, it's $400 per suite. So I say that it may be appropriate to have a maximum of $400 per suite for flooring over a 3 to 5 year average used in civilization repair maintenance. Appliance cost for fridge, stove, dishwasher is $1,667 or $167 per year. over a 10-year life. So they're gonna be assumed those items will last 10 years, the maximum should be 167. So that's what I've done in my previous calculations, is I maxed out their appliance cost. An email from Q4 also states that RM is higher than in the past due to competition from new apartments and condos at higher quality finish. A lot of condos that are built are bought by people who buy them as investments, and they turn around and they rent them. So there's a lot of rental condos out there also that compete. So these properties now, they have to compete with all the newer constructions. So part of that is the reason the repair and maintenance is at certain levels. Page 26, that is the email from Avram Chirac of P4 specifically. I don't know whether we should read the whole thing. And it says that it has 2 tabs. And the second last paragraph, it says, as we discussed, our repairs and maintenance has increased in the last 5 years, and since new construction of purpose-built rental condos have not abated, and we continue to spend at a higher level. Recently read an article in Free Press that they had 3,000 new apartments built last year and 2,500 to date this year. So there's a lot of apartments being built, new apartments and condos. We started at this higher level, and we continue at a higher level than past years, mostly due to competition from new construction noted above. In order to compete, we must bring in the standard of our rental units. So for example, we often now change all plugs, light switches, and fixtures, or move out to more modern ones. The same holds true for other items such as counters, plumbing fixtures, which often we have left alone, but now frequently changed if there's even one scratch or dent. I inspected a renovated property once, and had redone the kitchen. However, all the plugs and doors and all that were all old, so to me it was an old property with a new kitchen. So unless you renovate the whole thing, it still does not work that well to compete with new properties. So page 27 is the spreadsheet given to us by Avram of K4. And he shows the specific unit, the specific address, square footage, what the cost was, what the cost per square foot was. And the 1 bedroom was average 3616, as I stated. 2 bedrooms 4382. Then he gives the cost, page 28, of the appliances that he had. Detached stove and the fridge, and then page 29, dishwasher. So that's where I got my 167 per suite maximum for appliances, and 400 per suite for carpeting, or flooring, the whole flooring. And that's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Lucky, any questions of Mr. DuPont?
Yeah, I have this one down here. Cap rate.
Okay, are you gonna use it for questioning or just rebuttal? You can file it now. I'm just.
File it now, and
Yeah.
it would be questions on his cap rate.
That's fine.
Will you also be using this for all the files today?
This would be for all. Well, there's, like.
Do you want to present this before questioning?
What I was gonna say is there's only one Altus cap rate study. And then this would be a rebuttal to this study.
And I have a cap rate study on all the files, so I'll need a rebuttal for all the
okay, I
files.
gotcha.
It's
I
the
gave the
way
board
these are-
12,
Oh, okay,
12
sorry.
reports, 1 for each file and 4 for
It's a
you.
lot of paper.
I know, and then 1 for me, so I do 13 copies for every property.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll sit through trees and use the same one on each of the files.
I know.
Okay. So, there's a lot of information here. I guess if we go to your cap rate study first, on page 3, are any of these comparable cap rate sales, high-rise masonry buildings like the subject?
No, I have no high-rise.
And the subject assessment, whether I'm right or you're right, we're well into the $20 million range. The only two that would be in that range would be Ward and Southview in scope of, I mean,
Size, yeah, 18
some of them
million.
are under there's one under $1 million, there's some around $1 million. We've got 186 suites, this one's got 11, 14, 12, 6. Are they comparable?
Yes, they're just as comparable as you. You have the same cap rate whether it's low-rise or high-rise.
Well, we'll get to that.
You have the same
We're-
cap rate with 186 suites or 21 suites.
We'll get
You
to
don't
that.
make any
I'm looking at
difference.
your cap rate study.
No, I'm saying,
We're not
as
looking
part-
at mine.
No, just answer the question right now, you can make your arguments later, okay?
No,
Don't
Two
be
of them are
argumentative.
6 suites, and yeah, mine are small aside from Ward, but that's not the question.
they're comparables. We compare the risk that is out there in the market. We
Well,
compare
we'll get to
what the
risk.
return, and the return that the market is
So, will you please
asking.
just answer the questions and not go
Would
into
the same
dissertations?
buyer buy a high-rise masonry building in excess of $20 million and buy a $800,000 building? Are they the same buyer?
It could be.
Could be?
Could be.
It could be, but may not. But what the cap rate study indicates, the returns that the market is asking for the properties that I was able to find.
Okay, so on the subject of risk, of these cap rates, I've given everybody this rebuttal. And the first page of it shows the repair and maintenance you've used for all your cap rate properties. So do everybody have this page here?
Yeah.
So you've used repair and maintenance of $332. The highest is $1,072. You've excluded CapEx for La Vérendrye. And then when we go to all, and this, bear with me because this is going to be for all of them.
Yeah, that's fine. But-
All the,
But are you asking questions right now, or are you presenting your,
I'm getting to a question.
okay.
So if you're using on average repair and maintenance of $629 a unit, which as you said, would cover flooring and something else, isn't there a lot more risk to that than you're taking away all the risk for all the subject properties? Your average repair and maintenance per unit is $1,645. Are you comparing apples and oranges is what I guess I'm trying to say. Do you think it's right to have really low repair and maintenance on your cap rate sales to generate a high cap rate, and then high repair and maintenance on all your properties you're appealing to get a lower assessment?
I did not do cap rate calculations on the new properties to get a high cap rate, and I did not stabilize the subject properties to get a low cap rate, a low value. So that I don't like your question. What I've done is gone site specific on all the cap rate comparables, and I've done site specific repair and maintenance on all the properties here today. 333 Ward, I looked at it, I used a 5-year average repair and maintenance. That's what I used to stabilize that property. And that's what I use for most properties here today, I use a 5-year average.
Well,
If
then,
you could find somewheres where the actual repair maintenance was 2,000, I stabilized 1,000, you could find something where I did it wrong. But I went site specific on all properties, and that's what I do.
well, La Vérendrye, you've excluded what you call CapEx to get $500. In Fairlane, you include CapEx to get $2,200. Are you, you're not doing it the same?
230 Fairlane is an exception to the rule. I usually do not do CapEx. And I have changed on other Rancho where I don't do the CapEx anymore. But that one, 230 Fairlane, that's a different property, which we'll talk about later. Normally, I don't include CapEx, I exclude CapEx. So virtually all the properties here today, I've excluded CapEx.
So, I guess the question is if you have low repair and maintenance of $600 on average, does that give you a higher cap rate than if you're using, on average, $1,645?
You're mixing apples and
Answer the
oranges.
question, please.
No. The cap rates that we have obtained are site-specific, and what we've done for repair and maintenance for subject properties are site-specific. We cannot use the repair and maintenance of other properties for these properties here today. It's
Yes.
never done, we're not gonna ever do that.
So if 629 was higher, would the cap rates be higher or lower?
It would be lower if we change
The
repair.
cap rates would be lower if the repair and maintenance was higher.
Yes.
And if the repair and maintenance on the comparable properties was lower, the value would be lower, obviously.
What comparable properties you're talking about, the cap rate now, or the subject?
The comparables that we're using. Obviously, if the repair and maintenance is lower, the values are gonna be lower. So page 2, we've included 718 Beach. The purchaser sent us this letter saying that they bought the property right in the middle at 4.5 cap. Isn't it more important what the purchaser felt that he paid as a cap rate than,
Then mine?
yeah,
No, we always disregard the cap rate of a third party that's not here to testify. We don't know how he did that. So we never, if it says 7%, would you go by that? No, we never go with what's on
but we're
there.
getting these in and they're saying 4.5 and 5. This one says 4.5. And so you're saying it's not important what the buyer bought the thing at? Or what he felt he was paying as a cap rate? That's not important?
It's totally unimportant, I disregard that totally.
Okay. And so then on page 3, the same thing at 5.5. It doesn't matter what the owner said.
No, well, that's correct. That's not prime evidence, I'm never gonna rely on that. Otherwise, why give my whole appendix? Why calculate cap rates? Why get the financial statement? Let's go with what they say here. We'd never do that.
You never go with what you say.
That's never. And when you go to municipal board, you have actual cap rate comparables, and you work out the same ways I do. You don't rely on these things, so nobody does.
You can do that in an argument. Right now, just answer the questions, please. We're gonna take a long time here today.
No, and he's saying,
The first
is
one.
it reliable, it's not
I
reliable.
understand, but I don't appreciate, though, you going all over the place. Just answer the questions. I'll give you time to sum up if you want.
No, I believe that's totally unreliable, and it's never been relied on by ourselves when we both do cap rate calculations for municipal board.
Okay, on the cap rate now, getting back to 50 Alpine, on page 5, it's summarized on page 5 of my brief.
Page 5 of your brief.
Cap rates.
The one that has 500 Portage Avenue at the top?
Oh, no, sorry,
Oh.
Cap rate's
of my
steady.
actual,
Oh, sorry,
Sorry,
okay,
yeah.
I just wasn't
Lots
sure.
of paper.
it doesn't matter what the.
Well, we got some,
says.
yeah, we got so many things here that
I
I just
know,
wanna know
we
what
have
we're going
a
to.
ton
If
of
you say
paper.
my paper, I guess I have to know
And
which paper.
bear with us here, the
Yeah, that's
first one's
fine.
gonna take.
No, that's fine,
longer.
I just want clarification, so I know what you're referring
We'll
to.
whiz through the rest.
Yeah,
So the chart, capitalization rate chart on page 5 of our brief. Under multifamily, the second last chart. There's only one column and it says high rise. And no matter, like, so we'll skip through our model and then we'll go to Colliers, CBRE, and Cushman Wakefield. So Colliers has high-rise cap rate projections or whatever their study is of between 5 and 6%. CBRE has 5 to 5.75, and Cushman Wakefield is 4.75 to 5.75.
that's the question, right?
So the question is, since you have no high-rise cap rate sales, why wouldn't you rely on this market activity, or this market experts, these people that sell these buildings? And your 6%, well, I'll let you answer the first question. Why wouldn't you rely on them?
Well, we do rely upon it. We show that as secondary evidence. Cap rate comparables are usually primary evidence and would have more weight given to actual cap rate extraction from the market than what the market reports show. But we do show them as support. Collier's cap rates should be adjusted by 0.10%, which we take in our cap rate study because they add land transfer tax in calculating the cap rate, which is part of our evidence also. So we are within the range. I know the assessor's 20th percentile is not, and your low cap rates at 4% are not. So we are within that range.
Well, you're at 6%. So you're suggesting that you're higher than two of the experts. You're at the top end of Colliers. Are you suggesting that this high-rise building along the Seine River next to the Niagara Golf Course, with underground parking and park-like surroundings, is worse than all the other market activity, or worse than all the other high-rise buildings in Winnipeg?
Well, the question you're saying, all these factors are never part of the cap rate. The assessment department does not have a different cap rate for properties.
He answered the question, he asked you if you thought it was,
No, I'm asking the question. The factors he said are not recognized by anybody as being part of the cap rate.
So if you're looking
It's
at
the
this
return
building, it
that you
doesn't
get.
matter where it is.
All the positives and negatives you have is captured in the rents and the net income. And so what you're doing is you figure out what the market is buying, what the return they expect in the market. There's no extra cap rate given for the factors that you stated.
Aren't you gonna get higher rent? Aren't you gonna get higher rent, like,
But yes,
whether it's $1,200 or $1,300 a month average, it's pretty high rent.
yeah, those rents are
But you're saying,
captured
you're
in the net
saying
income.
that it should be a cap rate higher than everybody else? That rent is high. So I don't get what you're saying, maybe I'm missing something.
I'm saying that this is secondary evidence. My primary evidence is my cap rate comparables. Based on the cap rate comparables, the returns that they have for different properties
Right.
are shown, and based on those comparables, I came up with my cap rate conclusions, which are based on the primary evidence, which are my cap rate comparables.
And
I'm not saying this property is inferior to others, I'm saying it doesn't matter.
Okay,
The assessment department has the same cap rates for low rise and high rise. And you don't have different cap rates for different types of high rise. So the questions you ask, I don't know, that it's something that you don't recognize on your end.
well, our cap rate is within the range, yours isn't.
On this one, 5.3 is within the range, there's absolutely no evidence to determine whether it should be 5.3, 5.8.
I just showed you the three different experts, their range, we're within it, you're not.
You're within the, no, I'm in the range.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay, that completes all your questions? That's fine.
Yeah,
Explanation.
that would be,
Okay.
on this property.
That's fine. Mr. Terry, do you have any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, obviously, we've gone through quite a gymnastic to establish the gross income. So I'm assuming that's based on all the explanations you've given on the financial statements. There's a couple of questions I guess I have. I see that for 2017, the EGI was 45.7, which is the rate of expense on page, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you the page here, but your workup.
Page 7?
Yeah, page 7, okay. And then you're using 46.7. Why would you not use the actuals of 2017 to come up with the expense ratio?
Well, but the average is 47.6, we're 46.7, so we're less than the average. But we do line by line, and that's the way we do it. So we don't stabilize at actual 2017 for everything. You can have really high repair maintenance that year, and then you say, well, the expense ratio is 70% that year. Well, it's not. What we're doing is we're stabilizing line by line. That's what we've always done, and that, I believe, is the proper way of doing it. It's a line by line.
Yeah, and that last page, I think it was 26, I don't want to go to it, of the information provided by the owner or the agent. Now, I always get a little confused on what's repair and maintenance and renos. And he seems to have done a lot of renos in there. Are you aware what kind of renos they've done in the last couple of years? Because in that statement, he says he's trying to keep up with the competition, so repair and maintenance, normal versus upgrades is always a challenge, and that's really what I'm trying to find a little, maybe if you could help me a little on that?
Okay, so first of all, page 26 is from average track, which
Yeah.
relates to K4 property, does not relate to this property. That's their properties and their portfolio in general. And he lists the properties here on page 27. It shows the addresses, 455 Leela, 1245 Jefferson, etc.
So he refers to so that letter refers to what he's experienced in these other properties?
That's right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because when I come here, or when I stabilize, and I see a high appliance figure for 1 year, how do I adjust that? And in the past, I was saying, well, we go, appliances and flooring last about 8 to 10 years, we divide by a normal by 10 years, and we should not exceed that. And I didn't have hard evidence as to what a normal was, normal cost. Now I do. So K4 has gone to the trouble to calculate actual costs that they have, and it's now $4,000 to repair, to replace flooring in an apartment. So when I do my stabilization, if my flooring exceeds 400, I'll bring it back down to 400. Same as appliances, if it exceeds 167, I'll bring it down to 167. That's what I've done for this property. I brought it down to 167 for the appliances.
Have you inspected this property recently?
No,
You haven't?
no.
So you're going on what the information you have here?
Right,
Yeah.
we go through the financial statements and we remove what we believe to be CapEx. Renovations usually are considered for properties that do a lot of work to replace all flooring and all appliances within a year or two. That, they'll raise the rent substantially, and then going forward, they will have less repair and maintenance because they've done that. So if you see a property that has that, then you can say, well, okay, we should be careful on the repair and maintenance. It's been renovated, we should use the lower ones. Because if you have 500,000 repairs, maintenance, 500,000, then 200, 200, 200, and it's been renovated, we'd use the lower repair and maintenance at that one time. And just when there's no renovations, that's an ongoing 5-year repair and maintenance. That's what they're doing to obtain those rents. And you can see the rents, potential rents, $2.5 million, $2.6 million, $2.7 million. There's no huge rent increase there. If there were renovations, they would have higher rent increase. So we catch that when there's high rent increase. We know that usually due to renovations that occurred in prior years.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Has this been any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, so I've got a few questions. First of all, you're taking repairs and maintenance, and you're also, and renovations, and also appliance costs, which are basically capital or CapEx expenses, and you're putting them into repair and maintenance.
No, it's an ongoing expense. Landlords should not operate without replacing their flooring and their appliances.
No, I understand, but for income tax purposes, you're not allowed to do that. It's something that you depreciate too. Why don't you just show the depreciation that they take every year?
Well, you'd be very surprised. We have financial statements from Globe, Phoenix, and virtually everything is put down as repair and maintenance. Very few items are capitalized by their accountants. We've had these discussions before. Should we go with what is allowed by income tax, or what an appraiser should be doing, and what a purchaser would be doing?
Okay.
And so income tax is not to be considered. Rent regulations also have certain ways of doing things. They amortize virtually everything, and when they do for a rent increase, they'll do the appliances amortize over so and so versus the.
Okay, answer my question, but basically, I guess what I'm saying is, when you start doing things like this, you can be creative in determining what your NOI is, because you're basically using figures that you're pulling from the air and then justifying to get an end result. Whereas if you use the exact figures and the right ones you should use, then we know exactly what the NOI is.
There was a decision a long time ago in 1750 Pembina where the board stated specifically that the appliances and flooring should be used if it's occurring on a recurring basis. And they gave the example, for example, if all of the appliances and flooring were replaced in 1 year, we would not allow that as an expense. But if it's done on a recurring basis, they would. We had the same argument over and over and over again. 234 Ronald with Mr. Lucky for 2012. We actually agreed to repair and maintenance. 1148 Jefferson, there was another hearing on that where the board would try to decide what's allowed as an expense. But flooring and appliances are allowed at a municipal board. They're allowed by the assessor when they do site specific. I did 200 settlements last year, and all of them are done this way.
And I agree that any cost should be put in, but I think it should be the depreciated cost every year from the income tax return. And that would show exactly how much they're realizing every year, and it would work out the same over time. Because this way you can be creative, and actually every year you come forward, do a different averaging and give us a different NOI, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not doing the same thing over and over again, because we don't know which years you're using over and over again. Whereas once something's depreciated, it's gone, and you can only use the undepreciated capital cost to arrive at your correct figure every year. So if you're doing it that way, we know exactly what the costs to the landlord are, or the owner. You look like you're not understanding what I'm saying, so I won't
Uh,
persist.
No, I've been extremely consistent since 1991. I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I'm not being creative in any way. I'm following the decision of Mr. Board over the years. We settled 200 properties last year, for 2012, 2014.
Okay, you know what, that's fine, I'm happy with your answer at this point, I don't, okay. So the next thing, Mr. Lucky referred to a couple of returns from owners saying what the capital cap rate was when they bought. He said, well, we should disregard this as from third parties, and I don't think it's evidence before us. Isn't that correct, as you said?
Yeah, that's what I said, yeah.
But you feel quite justified in taking figures on another matter from K4, who's not even involved in this property, who might maintain their properties very differently than the owner of this property, and say we should use their methods of remodeling as if it was done by this owner, who's a different owner. And so why should we take credence in what K4 does when we're talking about a very completely different owner and a very different completely property? Because K4 doesn't have high rises. They've got mostly three-story walk-ups, isn't that correct?
Mostly they have
Yes.
a few
And
high
they have properties that are on streets like in Transcona, Kildare, I see, North End, Jefferson, Andrews. I mean, they're very different properties than a high-rise that's on the same river, which maybe would draw people because of its location, whereas a property in Jefferson might need to be updated more to draw a tenant.
The difference between the two is that the cap rates are is a judgment call.
No, I'm not-
Solely judgment of what Evidence Act from Q4 gave.
No, I know, but
Was
you're using,
facts.
but you're using their methods of renovating and saying that we should attribute this to this property, this is a completely different property, and a completely different owner. You might not have to do those type of renovations to attract tenants because of the location and the type of building it is.
No, what I'm getting from them is the average cost of flooring.
Okay,
And whether they do it more often or less often, whether it's a high rise or not, the cost of flooring would be the same. Right? You're replacing,
Yeah, but-
unless K4 does.
except the K4 might replace their flooring more often because they have to do so to attract tenants, whereas this building might not have to.
Right, but how often is not part of my evidence here. So
Okay.
what is their cost? And Q4 may do it every 8 years and somebody else may do it every 12 years, but that's not an issue here. What is the cost? I'm trying to find out what a normal cost was. I've come to this board here before saying, well, maybe it's 2,500 per suite. For appliances, I was wrong, it's 1,600. So I took the 2,500 I was using in the past, I brought it down to 1,600.
Okay,
Because it gives me an idea as to what would be a normal to stabilize that. And that's what is done here. 4,000 for flooring, 1,600 for appliances.
okay, thank you very much, you answered my questions.
Just a comment,
On a rebut- on a
I mean, I think you pointed it out, but I mean, K4 has a stake in the game too.
Sorry?
I mean, K4 has a stake at this game. You know, they have all these properties, now suddenly they're an expert at what it costs for repair and maintenance. And please just, you know, give weight to the thing as it should.
Well, I think Mr. Lucky, I pointed out that we're not looking at third parties'
Yeah.
capitalization rates, and maybe we should look at third parties' methods of how they do repair and maintenance, okay? That was my questioning.
I have nothing further.
Okay, anything that anybody wants to do in summation?
No, my only summation would be mainly the first page of this is, you know, the cap rate sales aren't being treated the same as the properties in front of you. The cap rates would be significantly lower if similar repair and maintenance was applied to them. And you would find that the cap rates would result in answers very similar to our model.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Dubon, any summation?
Yes, so the evidence at K4 should be allowed because they're stating facts. It's not a matter of that they have a stake in this. They're stating what it costs, and therefore they're stating facts. So I think it's totally wrong to say we should be excluding that.
Okay, but my only response to that was that you said the cap rates from a third party are not, you don't consider evidence, but you're providing evidence from a third party, and you said that Mr. Lucky's evidence is not good, but yours is. That's all I'm just pointing out. I think it's a bit of a discrepancy.
No, it's, what I'm trying to say in summation is that a third-party opinion should not be considered. Municipal Board has stated appraisals are not to be allowed as evidence unless the appraiser is there to testify. But parts of the appraisal that give the facts, the number of suites, or they say that the actual utilities for a year were so-and-so, that is allowed as evidence. Then the appraiser's opinion as to what you should stabilize utilities is disallowed. So when you obtain facts, it should be allowed, doesn't matter from what source. You can get it from the zoning department. I get a lot of my cap rate evidence from the assessors. I put that in my cap rate.
Okay.
It's evidence. Their opinions, I don't care about. So an opinion from a third party, it should not be allowed or given very little weight. And Mr. Lucky's rebuttal evidence about my cap rate is that misses the total point, is that I do site-specific stabilization for each of the cap rate comparable. I do site-specific for each of the properties here today, and every property I come to this board with. So the thing is, I'm very consistent, and we cannot use the repair maintenance from one property to apply to another property. Every property is unique and site-specific, and it's totally wrong to think we should be using the repair maintenance from one property to apply to a subject. So that's shouldn't be a wrong approach.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. Okay.
Great, Mr. Chairman.
We will take a break. Okay, we're reconvening, so we'll now proceed with our next item on the agenda, which is 22 Belleville Road. And Mr. Lucky, when you're ready, you can proceed.
Thank you. 22 Belleville Road, roll number 0800-424-6000. They were called the Redundant Towers. That's a high-rise, this side of St. Vital Center, sort of at St. Mary's and Meadowwood and everything. So,
St. Mary's in Dakota.
right, yeah, a signature building, but we have a 1969 11-story building. There's 235 suites. So the suite mix that we have is 145 one-bedrooms, 72 bedrooms, and 23 bedrooms. The average overall income is $99.9 per unit, and we agree on income. We differ in expenses and cap rate. So I would ask you to accept our income approach and maintain the assessment at $26,257,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Devine?
No question.
Mr. Terry, any questions for the assessor?
Yeah, would this be a concrete building like the previous one?
Very, similar, high-rise masonry building,
Masonry?
11 stories.
Yeah. That's all, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, any questions?
No questions.
And in your monthly average rental of just under $1,000, do you consider also the parking? Is there any revenue for parking?
That includes
That would include parking?
and laundry or incidental.
I see, so that's everything. And again, then there's 235 indoor parking spots. So each unit has one allocated spot, I guess.
I would guess.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. No further questions, Mr. Bond, you can go ahead.
Cap rate study. Talking new, page 57. with the sun, yeah.
I'm sorry, what page?
57.
57.
Yep.
On the left side, you got it there. From Mar West Group of
Okay.
Companies.
Yep.
From Cornelius Martins, principal of Mar West Group of Companies. To whom it may concern, I would like to confirm that we purchased 333 Ward for 18 million with a cap rate of 5.444%. And you look at my page 12, and I have 5.13. So I disregarded the opinion of the purchaser and came in with a lower cap rate. Because a purchaser's opinion is simply that opinion, and I used 5.13. So subject property, look at the photos, page 1, high rise, it's an older high rise built 1969. Suite mix, you can see there's 145 one bedroom, so it's towards the low side. It has 70 bedroom, 20 three bedroom. Page 2 shows the aerial photo. Page 3 shows the Google Maps to where it is. Off St. Mary's, between St. Mary's and Dakota, near Bishop Grandin. To page 6 from our cap rate study, we're saying the assessor's 5.3, we're saying 6%. Page 7. So if you look at line 13, we are 2,738,000, the assessor's 2,744,000, so we're similar. So I stated similar, we're slightly less. On the expense side, we stabilize it the same way as we do normally. We go actuals, 17 for insurance, utilities, taxes, wages, caretaker, etc. We use 3-year average for items could be erratic, like professional fees, sundry, and waste and snow. For repair and maintenance, we use 2013, 2017, 5-year average. You'll notice that line 27, the 3-year average 471, and we stabilized it lower 399 by using the 5-year average, so we brought it down than what their recent repair minutes are. So we apply the 6% cap rate, get a value of 21,600,000. So I'd like to go through the appendix. So page 12. So we did the exercise there, the appliance purchase, what they had, 2017, it was quite high, 228,000. So we brought in the other years, and put 298,000 overall, which is 235 per suite. That exceeds the what I have as a maximum, 167 from evidence from K4. So I stabilized 125 for 2017 to bring the average over 5 years down to the 167. Page 13, we did the same thing with flooring. We show what the flooring was for each year. Total comes to 313 divided by 5 years, divided by 235 is 267 per suite, which is below the max of 400. So we don't need to adjust the flooring. And then 2016 is on page 15. No notes on those. It shows what we use to stabilize, but as you can see, Sussex give a lot of details on their repair and maintenance so that we can see which items could be considered CapEx. And we did make an adjustment to line on page 23 that the supplies maintenance, we took off the 49,000 credited on 2014. Then we have the email, page 25, from Alan Sharak of K4, which gives us facts in regards to their cost for flooring and appliances, and that's what we use to calculate the maximum for flooring and a maximum, or these are averages, but we state that over 5 years, when you stabilize, we should not be exceeding these maximum. 167 per suite for appliances, for 400 per suite for flooring. And that's my report.
Any questions of Mr. Dupont, Ms. Lippy?
Has this building been significantly upgraded?
Well, you don't show it, I don't know. Not in the period that I see. For those 5 years, repair and maintenance, there's no large items there.
There's no large items?
No.
What about $708,000 windows and repairs, windows and doors? Plumbing, $452,000.
Oh, yeah, we disregarded a few items, sorry.
But it's had a lot of work done to it, right? I mean, don't they take these 2.5 million mortgage proceeds to renovate the building?
Yeah, at the bottom of page 12, it says $1,261,000 for interior RM.
Right, that's pretty
Windows
significant.
and doors and plumbing, yeah, okay, all items which I've disallowed.
So you disallowed, but I mean, this building's been significantly upgraded. I mean, 1,290,700. So isn't it safe to say that looks like they spent an extra 2.5 million right just in this year?
Yes, and then that's why actually on page 7, I showed the rents for 2018.
Sure.
So the rents went up to $2,009,000, but the discounts went up to $180,000, so they netted $2,007,000, which is only 2.8% higher than 2017.
This picture looks like it has a new roof. You know if it has a new roof?
I don't know. I don't think the financials indicate the new roof.
Okay. So, I mean, just in this year alone, they spent in excess of $2 million, making the place better, yet you're using a cap rate, a high-rise cap rate outside the spectrum of all the industry experts. Can you explain why?
The amount of renovations they've done do not change the cap rate. The only time it may affect the cap rate if the effective age is changed. The assessor has a different effective age that brings the cap rate to a different category. So this property is they replaced windows and doors, which were used to be new at one time, and now they're replacing them. So they just bring it back what they used to be. So a lot of these things that they're doing may not be improving the properties, it maintains it, the things are necessary to be done. If the rents had gone up 20–30%, then we have to take that into consideration. But the subsequent year, we have rents after discount 2.8%, so it's not a significant improvement.
But none of these things change the cap rate.
It would usually not change the cap rate, as I said, unless you change the effective age, and you would bring it past 1998, I believe, is the next dividing line.
So if you had two buildings, and this one significantly renovated, and the building next door not, and the same purchaser was looking at those two buildings, he wouldn't pay a premium for the renovated one and expect a lower return on his investment? A lower cap rate, less risk?
Cap rates are the same.
Oh.
It's measuring the risk, whatever renovations and rents, you capture in the rents. It's the return that we're looking at, so that stuff like that, unless it's more of a brand new building and you're looking at 1998 plus, you get cap rates of 5.25. And the assessor does the same thing, mind you. You give the same cap rates for all properties a certain age group. You don't consider the amount of condition and renovations. Every property, you can't find a high rise that has not had some kind of renovations. They always do renovation on an ongoing basis. It's very hard to find an apartment that still look, when you inspect it, it's a vintage 1969 or vintage 1970. The whole market is like that, so you have to, well, the windows and doors, I mean, it's not improving the value, it's preventing leaks. It's something that you have to do now and then. Anyways, these factors do not affect cap rate.
Okay.
That's your questions?
Thank you, Mr. Lucky. Mr. Carey, any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I'm just on page 16. I see under wages, miscellaneous interior, 18,940 R&M. Was that left in there? Because, you know, you made some adjustments. I was just trying to understand if that's been left in as a repair and maintenance item?
The 18,940?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. And how do you justify that?
It's part of the wages that Sussex pays to people on their salary that do repair and maintenance for all their apartment blocks. So we've established with them many years ago that when they have miscellaneous interior, miscellaneous painting, that's the painter that they have on their salary and that charges a time for each apartment that they have. So that these are in fact repair maintenance and not caretaker. So we've established that with them so that we always put the miscellaneous interior and miscellaneous painting in their R&M.
And so it's not part of the management fee either. You've got a cushion there, which is okay, that we've always allowed the 5%, but that's not in any way part of it.
No, it's not. No, on the payroll, we always have part that goes as caretaker and part that goes into R&M.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's it for me.
Thank you. Mrs. Fit, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
I don't have any questions. Any questions I asked you last time, I covered over here. Good answers, thanks. Okay, the next matter on the docket is 15 Innsbruck Way. Again, Mr. Lucky, when you're ready, you can proceed with that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 50 Innsbruck Way, roll number 050094162000. And this property is in an area we call Amber Trails, and it's almost directly behind the Seven Oaks Hospital. So it's a good area. Lots of employment at the Garden City areas there. This building is 4-story. Wood or most likely wood frame, built in 2014. There's 155 units, 229 parking stalls, which is typical for suburban locations. People need cars, you have cars. We did this on the cost, or they should say, sorry, the income approach. The 61 one-bedrooms, 84 two-bedrooms, 10 three-bedrooms. And our NOI is actually lower than the applicants. We would accept at least the expenses. In any event, we're not looking for an increase. We would ask that you accept the assessment of $27,560,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bond, any questions?
No question.
Sharon, any questions?
No, thank you.
Does this any questions? So I see on this one, the model has shown a 5% cap rate rather than 5.3 that you had in the two high rises. Is that because this is not a high rise, or is it because it's new construction?
It would be the age.
The age. Do you know what the date of when it goes from 5.3 to 5% is?
I don't know, is it in your cap rate study?
I believe 1998 plus.
I was gonna guess 98.
Thank you, it's good to understand. That's my question, thank you. Mrs. Bond, you go ahead.
Yeah, you can look at photo page 1, and the map, page 2 and 3. Page 7. You'll notice line 13, we're slightly lower than the assessor. But line 31, we have lower expenses than the assessor. So in the end, line 33, we have slightly higher NOI than the assessor, 1,407,000 versus the assessor 1,378. Please notice line 27, we stabilize the repair and maintenance at the 3-year average, which is only $690 per suite, which means that we are being consistent. When it's low repair and maintenance, we stabilize at low repair and maintenance. We're going site specific. We could say property like that cannot last at $690 per suite. We'll use $1,500 per suite. I don't. I use $690. Nevertheless, we're down to a cap rate argument. 5.25% is what we have. We do have 3 newer properties in our cap rate studies, so we do have very good evidence on those. 333 Ward, page 3 for cap rate study. That's probably the best comparable. Is 100 Southview, 5.59%, built 2014. Very large property, 38 million the sale price. And then 718 Beach, the smaller property, is 5.42. Nevertheless, our T comparables average 5.38, so I believe we have very good evidence for newer properties. The assessor has no evidence whatsoever on the cap rate in that regard. So this is a cap rate argument only, and we have the data to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Lucky?
Line 13 of page 7, the actual income is $2,282,000, and you're using $222,000. Can you explain why?
Our vacancy is 3%, same as yours, so we allow 3%. And we did not allow for bad debt.
Okay. So you're using our model vacancy.
Yeah, your model vacancy.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Terry, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mrs. Smith, any questions?
I do,
Go
just to follow up to what you said on your cap rate study, page 3. Which properties were you referring to? The newer ones, was that Ward Beach and Southview? Southview has the 3 newer,
Right.
and all of those have cap rates of over 5, I see.
Right.
So what is the average of those? I can calculate it.
No, it's shown there, the second
3
last column.
Oh, I do see that, yeah.
5.38.
Okay, and you're requesting 5.25.
Right. And, yeah, 100 Southview has a lot of photos and a very good presentation by the vendor, the agent involved. So it's quite a superior property, very new, has a lot of garages for these townhouses that they have. So it's a positive, so it's a very good property they have.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no questions, thank you. Okay, our next matter is 230 Fair Lane Avenue. Are you ready, Mr. Lucky?
230 Fairlane Avenue is roll number 0721943530. We have 1978 walk-up, multi-building, 5-building apartment complex with 208 suites. This is what we call Crestview. Um, $292 parking stalls. So on page 3, the suite mix is 5 bachelors, 64 one-bedrooms, 119 two-bedrooms, and 23 bedrooms. The model that we generates 1,029 as the overall average income per unit. Our expense ratio is 50.72%, 1,269,382,000. And this property has a capitalization rate of 5%. Well, I would ask that you maintain the assessment of $24,667,000.
Thank you. Mr. Dubont, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Terry, any questions?
I would assume this is a wood stick building.
Right, it's, there's pictures in Mr. DuPont's.
Okay.
It is, it's like a,
Yeah, we'll see it when it comes to it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
This is,
Yeah, you've used a cap rate of 5%, but this is a 1978 building,
right,
so it is quite old. And we just heard some testimony that I think the break was at 1998 for,
right.
can you explain why a 5% cap rate on a 1978 building?
Yeah, it's not just age, but if you look at page 5,
Sure.
our cap rates go from a low of 4
Mhm.
to a high of 7.3.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
5 is within our range.
Maybe I should ask what, have there been renovations to this property? You haven't affected your built of 1978. Seems to me this is kind of at the low end of your cap rate study, but it's an older building, so I'm just trying to wrap my brain around why that would be.
I guess, you know, a number of factors, the project size. These are purchased by, you know, large ranchos, Qualico, or I think they're still associated. These are big projects, with significant investments, and they fall within cap rates of large projects, significant investments. They're, yeah, that'll be the simple answer.
So I have the same concerns that my colleague Ms. Nisbet had, in that we have a 5.3 here, and we just had testimony, and she said that there's basically a change at 1998. And I also note that on the first two matters on our docket today, which were high rises and nice properties, we had 5.3s on those. And how do you differentiate this building, even though it's not a high rise?
Well, it goes by.
No, I understand, but I'm just, so that's what I'm asking you, but how do you differentiate this building from those buildings, even though it's not a high rise? Is it because the others are high rise, that it gives effect to the higher, like one you indicates on the same river, for example, which is a really nice location. So I'm having difficulty too in this one, just, you know, seeing the 5% cap rate at this
The
point.
factors are age, size, are the biggest ones.
Yeah.
It's like, some of we have older small buildings at 4.3% that are older than these.
Yeah.
So the model, it's very complex.
Yeah, and you don't do the model, so it's hard for you to answer the question.
Right, but I would say that, you know, again, a significant project like this,
Okay.
that it has, like, there's all kinds of possibilities. This could be converted to, and it is
Well, in fairness-
condo ownership.
Yeah, in fairness, you answer the question as best you can, and I guess the question is, you know, is the model always accurate? If it was, I guess there would be no need for our board. So, you
Well,
know.
the model is very accurate. You know, we're seeing, you know, income's off a couple percent, expenses off a few percent.
Yeah.
You know, we can't anticipate
No, I
all
understand.
these expenses put in, like, you know, such that they are. But, you know, a lot of our NOIs are right on. Like, it is very accurate. And if our income and expenses are, for the most part, very accurate, then our cap rate should too, because they're all driven by the same thing.
Okay, you know, that's fair, you answer as best you can. I know you don't do the model, but I was hoping you could give me an answer that,
It's a prime, you know, it's a prime property, believe it or not. Like I said, you could sell off these units for
yeah.
a lot more than $118,000 per unit, 2 3-bedroom condos.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's my question, Mr. DuPont, you can go ahead now with your presentation.
Page one, the total, you can see it's a wood frame building, wood stairways. So these types of properties are, we call garden style, wood frame. And they require a lot more repair maintenance than a high rise, which would be masonry. So these are the most intensive property that there is for repair and maintenance. Page 2 shows it's a multiple building, which is 6 buildings. A large parking lot, so they have more repairs per parking lot and fences and exterior. A lot of exterior surfaces in wood, so it requires more. Page 3 shows where it is. North of Portage, near past the Heritage Lodge. The cap rate, page 6. So this property is built 1978. So we allow 6% cap rate. Page 7. We have some items in blue there, so you can see the discounts on line 2. It's increasing. it was 311 to 330, 382. The rents are pretty much the same, so they're having a harder and harder time on this property, and vacancy is also increasing, 74,119, 153. So we stabilized at the actual income after discounts, line 3, and the actual vacancy. And then we, when we add the parking and miscellaneous income, we have 2,350,000, and so there's a slight improvement. We say that from 2,316 down to up to 2,350, but you do have the problems with the discounts and the vacancy. We stabilize expenses similar to all others. The repair and maintenance is done differently here. We have line 27, repair and maintenance. And we show the 5 years. We stabilize at the 5 years, which is 1866 per suite. Far right, you see the average. Line 27B, we have recurring CapEx. We show what the amounts are. We stabilized at 2015, 2017 at 50% to come to 2210. That method says at the bottom here, we have been deducting 50% of recurring CapEx since 2010 NBM, COA, and 770 Allegheny. At that point, we had the municipal board, we went and inspected with the assessor, multiple building, also with wood frame. And it was our argument at the time that the type of CapEx that you have on this property occurs over and over again, it's recurring. So we were saying that we should be allowing for these CapEx items, which are actually, it's a normal part of the ongoing operation. And we settle that one at 50% recurring CapEx. So we've been using for the Rancho project, 50% of the recurring CapEx ever since we caught that decision. The board revision has not always accepted that, and we've ended up appealing a whole bunch of properties to the municipal board. So for a recent property this week, which was some in the Allegheny, I decided not to do the recurring CapEx anymore. So I'll go through that in the back to show you. So if you go to page financials, we'll start on page 12, 13. So on page 13, they show the maintenance. A lot of these items are showing maintenance. We exclude waste and snow, which are their own calculations. Where we do have the difference with this recurring CapEx on page 14. So this is the 2017. So under certain items, we show repair maintenance. And then for hot water tank replacement, we show that as 27B. And then we also show window replacement as 27B, which is the recurring CapEx, and we ask that we go 50% of that. So what we've done for others recently, instead of going recurring CapEx, we're saying we will allow certain items, others we won't. And properties that have 10, 12 buildings, hot water tanks you replace 10 times, so that's a normal thing. If you have only one building, hot water tank is replaced every 20 years, or 15 years, I guess. But if you have 15 buildings, if you had one per year, that would be recurring. This property has only 6 buildings, so therefore we will continue to disallow hot water tank. I would allow windows and replacement here, 25869. So if you want to make a note, at the bottom, I'm allowing 25869 for this year. Then we can change, go to the next, which is page 17. This is for 2016. So for 27B, we had the recurring CapEx, the hot water tanks, which we continue to say to disregard. Parking lot major repairs, I'm saying we should allow it, but we should continue to disallow the roof repair, 108. So if you want to make a note at the bottom, I would allow 18,249 as a repair and maintenance. When you have lots of parking, you would do repairs, the replacement of a parking lot, where you would spend 100, 200,000 would not be allowed, but the repairs on an ongoing basis would be allowed. So that's why I'm allowing 18,249. And the last year is page 20 for 2015. We disallowed exterior major repairs, 374. We should allow that. So you should be expected that you would do exterior repairs on buildings like that. We continue to disallow the hot water tank and continue to disallow the 109. So if you go back to my page 7, I think. So if you want to make notes at the bottom for 27B, instead of, for 2015, instead of 158,000, we're allowing 37,354 now. 2016, instead of 143,316, I'm now allowing 18,249. And instead of 40,000 for 2017, I'm allowing 25,869. The 3-year average is 27,157. So where we had stabilized at 71,603, I'm now stabilizing at 27,157.
How much again?
27,157.
27157?
Yeah, 27,157.
Okay.
So I'm increasing my NOI by 44,446. That becomes a new NOI, 1,156,422.
What, 1,000,000?
156,422. Divided by 6% cap rate, new value is 19,274,000. 19,274,000.
That's your presentation, or are you still?
I've got, Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
what was your new, I have 19,273,700.
Yeah, and I rounded to 274, yeah.
Okay. 19,274, I hadn't picked up your figure, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 19,274,000,
Okay.
which is rounded.
Okay.
One last calculation I did is that, so for the far right, under recurring capex, where I showed 344, it's now 130. And if you add the 1866, we're now at the total R&M of $1,996, which I believe to be fairly low for a wood frame garden style apartment. Most of them that I've been doing are coming closer to 2,500 or even exceeding 2,500. So I believe my adjusted valuation on this for the repairing maintenance is quite reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Lucky?
I'm still kind of sorting through these calculations.
Oh, take your time.
So. This property at 19,274,000, which cap rate sales would this be more similar to on your cap rate sales?
On page 3, which would be the group 1964 to 1976. That makes sense?
This is a 1978, so it would be in the 75 to 97.
I don't have cap rates between 1975 and 2006, so we use that age group that so we have 5 sales at 6.15%.
Okay, sorry.
6%.
You don't have cap rates between 75 and 97?
And 2006.
Right. So where did you get the 6% from?
From the age group that we have, 1964 to 76. There's no evidence indicating.
Well, I'm looking at page 3 of your cap rate study.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And you have a line that says 60 to 74 is 6%.
Right.
And I can see that you have some sales of 60 to 74. And then you have the next range of sales is 2006 to 2014. So you have a category of 1975 to 1997. How did you arrive at 6%?
We give the same cap rate, and I believe the assessor has the same cap rate also for these 2 age groups.
We don't have the same cap rate of 6%.
No, you have the same cap rate of 5.3 or 5%. You don't change cap rates until.
No, I'm asking you, your cap rate study, you don't have any sales, 75 to 97. How did you arrive at 6%? I didn't ask you about our cap rate study.
I said I grouped them, I put them in the same group as the previous category, 60 to 74. And I'm saying I did that. It's reasonable because you've done that also. And the.
But you don't have any sales in that range.
And the Colliers and CBRE and all that, just say low rise, high rise. They don't make a division of age.
Instead of being argumentative, just answer if you don't have any in that, I mean, the answer is yes, you don't have any, correct? That's,
I think
just
his
answer the question.
I think he's questioning as to whether I'm
Well,
being
no, he's asking,
reasonable or not.
no, he's asking a question though.
The question was, do you
and
have
it's an
any
obvious
cap
answer,
rates?
and you can certainly argue that your rate
Right.
is, anyway, but.
Right,
I
okay.
mean, there's no point in arguing like this because it's not gonna get us to where we have to go, and we're just wasting time,
Okay,
okay?
Well, yeah, I'm just asking if there's sales, and you don't have any cap rate sales in that range, but you have an answer. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, Mr. Lucky?
Um,
You don't have to, but I just wanna make sure before I pass the gavel on to Mr. Terrian.
No, I don't
Okay.
have any more questions.
Mr. Terrian, any questions?
Yeah, I was looking at your page 28. And in the last cycle, you used 5 3/4 on the cap rate.
Okay, where are you?
Page 28.
Okay.
Okay, take your time of the appellant.
Of the,
Right.
If I look at the bottom here of the appellant, you're showing 575 as your cap. Are we all on the same page here? Page 28 at the
Yeah.
bottom?
oh, yeah,
And today you're using 6.
right.
Could you try to, I thought there was some kind of a compression on the cap rates to some extent. Could you comment why you're up to 6 compared to 575?
There's no compression on the cap rate. The Colliers and CBRE do not show cap rate compression. And I believe the Colliers cap rate, on the high end, they go 1/4% more. Page 4. on the
Yeah,
cap
but have you people changed your range? Because you're like I say, on the appeal, you were at 575, and now you're at 6. So I'm
Right.
just trying to find out how you're justifying that change. Because that's the evidence, page 28.
Oh, yeah, I would say that for most property, well, not most, for a lot of them, we're going a 1/4% higher than we did last cycle.
You're going a quarter higher?
Yeah, and a lot of them, depending on age groups, and based on the comparables that we have. And based on the fact that the Colliers CBRE, well, the CBRE says that it's the same. They have the same cap rate range, and the Colliers went up 1/4%. And I do show on page 2 a cap rate study what we had last time. So each of the age group was shown. What we have, so based on the evidence that we have now, that's what we're doing. So what we did last time, it doesn't matter that much. It's evidence we had for last time.
And the last assessment, and maybe previous years, is under appeal at the moment? Municipal board?
Uh,
I thought I saw that in there.
I showed that mainly to show that we were using recurring CapEx all along, and
But are you in fact appealing this decision at the municipal board at the moment?
I don't know if I marked it down or not. Oh, yeah, page 26 is appeal to municipal board.
Page 26?
Right. My note says appeal to municipal board.
Okay, so that is being appealed, but the previous page 28, to make clear, again, you did not appeal the previous one, at 20,487,000. Page 28 at the bottom, you said that no MBMB appeal.
On the 2016,
Yeah,
right.
I'm just
So-
trying to confirm what you're saying.
Right, yeah, so
So
2016
you were
was
at
not appealed.
2487, it was not appealed. The last one was 23,922, and that's being appealed.
Right.
Okay, I'm just trying to get the picture, sir. Thank you.
Has this been any questions?
Questions?
So I'm looking at this wise ordinance that you're saying is being appealed by a very good board of revision.
Oh, yeah.
Strong board.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that.
So, that's okay, that's okay, so what do you, is your appeal based on? Is it the cap rate that was given to you, or is it the NOI that was adjusted? You know? I don't know what
I
your.
don't think we should discuss what may or may not.
No, I was putting this as evidence,
occur.
so there's two factors that I guess would bear appeal, or do you know even at this point?
Well, it says at the bottom, a huge sign on the cap rate 5.25.
Yeah,
That was my 5 3/4, so I'm sure the cap rate factored into that.
Well, it says, sorry, go ahead.
And it says what?
It says that they didn't allow the CapEx.
And you added back the capital expenses, 77,000.
okay, so you weren't upset with the cap rate then of 5.25 that was given to you, but,
So I appealed the cap rate and the 77,000, the recurring
oh,
CapEx.
you did?
Right, well, you did not allow for it.
Well, I'm not sure what I can see, you didn't like the $77,000 of CapEx deducted from your NOI, I mean,
Right.
from your expenses.
Yeah,
Added
so,
back in.
so I've changed this recurring CapEx now. And I will do that for all the, I think we have 4 or 5 branch shows where we'll be using recurring CapEx, so I'll be changing that. And if and when we go to municipal, where instead of 77,000, I'll do the exercise and maybe I'll allow 25,000 or whatever it is, so I don't know how it's gonna play out. But the cap rate is certainly an issue.
Okay, thank you. That's no question. Okay, our next property is 1710 Portage Avenue. Mr. Lucky, when you're ready.
1710 Portage Avenue is roll number, excuse me, some water, 07000959000. These are it's actually 2 towers. When we say 3 buildings, sometimes a building is included as the parkade. But there's 2 towers right at Portage Avenue, Route 90 and the river, overlooking the Assiniboine River, across Route 90 from the Viscount Port Hotel. So, as I said, this building is 17 stories, built in 1968. There's 200 suites. There's indoor parkade and there's some outside parking as well. Probably should have deleted these sales. They look like some sort of internal. On page 2, the INEs are up to date. Page 3, we have model income and expenses. Arrived at a value of $27,534,000. I can speak from experience. I've known several people lived there. Some of them had to wait a long time to get in. There was a big waiting list at that time. And I would ask that you maintain the assessment.
Thank you. Mr. Devine, any questions?
Yes, so your own report shows that they had 97,033 vacancy for 2017. Are you saying there was no vacancy, or in regards
I'm
to?
sorry, what was the question?
You stated there's a waiting list, but your own evidence shows in the questionnaires they had 97,000 in vacancy. So you had, in fact, 3.9% vacancy. Do you dispute that?
I don't dispute what they put here. You know, I hope you don't have this. There's, just looking here. You don't have this page, do you?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
Can you rip it out and throw it away?
Yeah, I was
Which page is
wondering what
that?
that was there for.
That's photocopy that got fed into the photocopier. Yeah, just rip that page out and throw it away.
So that don't,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whoa, what the heck is this?
Oh, Matt the Rocket, he's got something missing.
the 51.
Right, yeah, rip out the 15 one, please kindly throw it away.
Okay.
It's a different matter. Unless you want to reduce it to 70,000.
Hey, why don't we give it back to you?
Thank you. Yeah, that's
Take a look
it.
at it.
Thank you. Good.
Did you rip out your sheet?
well, I can, I guess.
Yeah, I
I just crossed it.
Another one?
I crossed it out.
Okay, that's good.
Here, make you feel better.
Good. Thank you. Well, you know, there's always gonna be some vacancy and bad debt and whatnot. I'm just speaking from personal experience, I know, and maybe my friends wanted a certain specific kind of suite or something. But it's generally considered to be a prime location.
That's all questions.
Mr. Terry, any questions?
Yeah, I see in your page 4, You've used 1,061. Oh, no, I'm not looking at the right line. No, 1231, okay. I was trying to compare the rents with the others.
It's tough to do, eh? This is,
It's quite a variation there.
This was their flagship building, the Loud Corporation.
These are bigger units than the.
They're bigger,
comparables.
they're big units,
But I had read it wrong,
sure.
the wrong line. No, I think I'm okay. Thank you.
Mrs. any questions?
I'm fine, thanks.
I have got no questions.
Yeah, you look at photos, page 1. You can see we got the bridge in there, going over the Centerwine River. Page 2 shows where it is, so it's very close to high traffic area. So I don't think that's a positive. Page 3 shows where it is in relation to Route 90. So it's a very high traffic area, so there'll be a lot of noise in there. So the balcony will not be terribly enjoyable. So that location should be a negative. So we're going for the cap rate, we're going for 6% as usual for this property. And page 7 is a breakdown of our revenue and expense. I didn't show it here, but the line 3, the potential gross rent, to 486, that's 1,036 per suite. So if you want to write that down, so we're now showing that as much as possible. They have a significant other income, so laundry, parking, they have an antenna, which we allowed, some miscellaneous. But we're still, line 13, we're still 260,000 less than the assessor. The vacancy is shown there, line 4 and 5, 2.4, 2.4, 3.9, we stabilize the actual. And then for expenses, we stabilize the normal way for most of the items. The only one that would be a question would be repair and maintenance. We stabilized repair and maintenance at the 2013, 2015, so we disallowed the high years of 2016, 2017. They're not terribly high that would indicate renovations, but they're higher than the other 2 years. And so we stabilized at 1977 per suite. Under remarks, it says there, 2013 to 2015 RM were detailed, and some CapEx were removed. The 2012 RM, which we don't show here because the 2015 is the last one, was 376, and so it support excluding CapEx, which supports our civilization at C95. I can go through the data. So page 12. So for 2017, they use the assessor's questionnaire, and the assessor's questionnaire does not ask for breakdown or repair and maintenance. So you see in the middle of the page, maintenance repair 531, and then the maintenance supplies 3484. We add these two together, and that's the interest, the repair and maintenance we showed in the spreadsheet. Now on page 13, it does not show any capital improvements. So they ask for it and they show none. Vacancy shown there is 97033, which we have in our report. Now page 14 is the 2016 questionnaire. There again, repair and maintenance is not detailed. 2015, they also give the assessor's questionnaire, but we also have the detailed I&E for R&M. So we use the detailed I&E for the R&M, and that's shown on page 18. So we have a different type of statements there, which gives us more detail. So page 19, it shows what the what we have for R&M. First one is automobile cost, and then page 20. So some of the items that we have there, contract services, etc., we have that as R&M, pest control. waste and snow, we have a separate account. And then their mechanical maintenance, is shown what they have. Repair maintenance is shown for the grounds maintenance. Page 21. They show some items like flooring, carpet turnover, so it's what they're spending on a turnover, so they, most properties are operated that way, but you replace your appliances and your flooring upon turnover. What we've excluded is the major improvements here that's shown at the bottom, page 21. Plumbing repipe, 26,000, it's not that big, but we excluded it. G2, G1, we don't know what that is, but it was large and we excluded it. And then page 22 is a 2014. And 23 starts again on the repair and maintenance. We show the auto as a repair and maintenance on page 24. We show on top of what the three items, the contract pest and supplies is repair and maintenance. We excluded 86,000 for exterior. We excluded plumbing 99,981, which was a bit conservative on our part. We should have allowed some amount for plumbing. But we disallowed the whole thing. Page 25. At the bottom, we disallowed what they call major improvements. They don't explain what G1, G2 is, but we disallowed it. 2013 is back to the questionnaire that he gave, but we also have the financial statement, which I have the wrong way. And I don't have it numbered, I don't know if you have the 2013. But under major improvements, again, they have 1,173,000. So the window and patio doors, 896,000. Balconies, 125,000. Plumbing, 85. So there's really no renovation to the suites there. It's more structural. So we disallowed those items. So if you go back to our spreadsheet, so the page 7. So these are the amounts we allowed for recurring maintenance, excluding those items that we excluded, and then we stabilized the 3-year average, the low 3-year average of 2013, 2015, excluding the higher 2016, 2017. So that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. DuPont on this matter? Ms. Levy?
Just again, you don't have any high-rise cap rates?
No, I don't.
Mr. Terry, any questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to sort this out a little bit. On your page 1, you show the 2018 realty at 24,962.
Oh, okay, I think that's probably a typo there.
Well, I don't know if it is or not, because.
Oh, it is, yeah, it should be 27,534.
So what does 2018 realty assessment 24, is that wrong?
Well, when we start 2020, we take the 2018 and then we save it and change it, and I guess we forgot to change
So, I guess my question was the 24,962 appealed to municipal board? Because that's, I'm trying to look at the evidence here.
That was the original, I don't know what we obtained at the board of revision. I can look in the rest of the file, see if you may have anything on that. No, I didn't I didn't show what it was. So our requested the 20,602,000 is correct, but the 2018 realty assessment is in fact 27,554.
And then your 24,962, you don't know if that's been appealed or not?
I have no idea.
No idea? Okay, thank you.
Is this good?
No questions.
So I'm looking at your page number 7, I was upon, and I noticed that the city used a model vacancy of 2.6, and you're asking for 3.9. And I'm looking at you sort of stabilized, so you had 3.4 in 2015, 2.4 in 2016, 3.9 in 2017, and you've, at 3.2 is your average, and you've stabilized at 3.9 despite of the fact that your average is 3.9. So you're asking for 3.9 despite of the fact that your average vacancy is 3.2, correct? And
Yes.
I wonder why you did that when you were stabilizing everything.
Well, we have to make a judgment call as to how to stabilize either to your average or.
So your judgment call is to make it higher rather than to reduce it then, basically. That was your judgment call in this case then. And what was basically your judgment call then?
Well, yeah, it's, if you look at the actual, line 8, actual received, they had less vacancy in 2016, but they received 2,371,000.
No, no, but we're not talking about that, we're talking about why would you stabilize it and then use the figure that you have that year anyway?
The average is shown there, that's not a stabilized,
Well-
2.2 is the average.
Well, the average would be a stabilized rate if you used it. If you don't use it, it's not stabilized, I agree, then you're using the actual.
Right, so what we normally
But I'm
do.
asking you why we stabilize everything and not use the stabilized rate if you're roughly to stabilize it, to get a fair picture of what an investor is gonna look at coming into it, which is the fair way of determining, isn't it?
We don't use the average rent, line 1. We use the 2017 rent,
And I understand.
right? So just because we show the average, we do not stabilize everything at the average. As we said before many times, we stabilize the actual 2017 rents, actual insurance, and actual utilities, and actual
Okay, so,
taxes.
okay,
Certain items, we use 3-year average, okay?
Yeah.
So that the standard procedure.
so I know, and why is the standard procedure to use some items and not others though? Because this one, in other words, let's suppose that instead of having a 3.9 in 2017, you had a 2.2. You wouldn't stabilize it then?
I would, sure, I would not use the 3-year average is higher. Past vacancy that has been cured by 2017, I would never say it's usually higher previous vacancy.
But it might be going, in one year you might have 2.2, next year have 3.9, and then next year 2.2, and then 3.9 again. So it's not necessarily stabilizing then. So how will you determine when you should stabilize and when you shouldn't? I mean, what I'm saying to you is you're asking us to use your NOIs and you're picking figures up, and, you know, we have the city's model on one hand, which is always consistent, and I don't know, you know, when you manipulate these figures to get an amount, I don't know which ones are fair to use or not.
Normally, we use always the 2017 income, and so we should try to match as closely as possible what that income is. So that income went up, and the vacancy went up, and so I'm saying the proper way is to recognize the vacancy that matches that income. If it were erratic for some reason, I could go the 3-year average, but if it were lower, I would not go with the 3.2.
Well, in this case, though,
I would go at 2.6.
okay, this one is erratic though, if you look, it's 3.4 and then it goes to 2.4, and then 3.9 and then 3.2. So it's erratic, it's going up and down.
Right, yeah, there is some.
Yeah, so it's not actually being cured, you know, so I'm just wondering, in this case, why you would not use the stabilized then? Because it is erratic.
Because the rents have gone up, and from 2,000,003 in 2015 to 2,486, the rents have gone up more. So the vacancy, the rents have changed, and what the market is doing in 2017 is the most important. So to me, the most important year is 3.9.
Okay, thank you. You answered my question, I guess, sort of.
Well, you know, I know it's judgment call, and
Yeah, well,
but
it has to be a judgment call that gives you a better window, you know, so
Yeah.
it's a judgment call in your favor, so that's why I'm questioning it.
Yeah, but you can go through the list and you'll see that a whole bunch of items that work against me for certain ways to be stabilized and that, so.
Okay, thank you.
It's not always because it's to my advantage.
Okay.
It's not the way I do business.
Guess we're gonna have a break shortly, aren't we?
If we need one, we can take one.
Well, it's up to you, sir.
No, okay, we'll take a break for, let's take a quick one, 5 minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
I can't, is it?
That,
12:05.
it's 12:05 right now.
Oh, okay.
12:05,
Is
yeah.
that okay?
Do you want to break
You
for
agree?
lunch instead?
No, I think the next two aren't gonna take that long.
We got three
I think-
left.
We have 3 left.
You wanna wait for lunch?
Thanks for that.
I wouldn't mind getting on with my day, but,
What's that?
I wouldn't mind getting on with my day.
What, if we took a few minute break, we could probably, the last one will be a little bit longer.
It will be
the
longer?
other two, but
Okay.
not,
It'll be longer?
but as a commercial component.
So it's 2 income streams then?
Right.
Okay,
I'm good with whatever you wanna do, it makes no difference.
I wouldn't mind just running and getting a coffee and
Okay.
coming back,
Yeah.
but
Okay, so
I
why don't
don't wanna.
okay, so we're gonna do this, instead of taking a whole bunch, why don't we just take maybe 20 minutes, it gives us time
Yeah,
to go
sure.
and get some quick.
I'll probably get myself a sandwich.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring it back here.
okay, we can do that,
Is that okay?
Back for like
We can take maybe a
12:30.
little while.
Yeah, so let's
We'll get
be
a
back for
sandwich and
12:30.
right back.
12:30.
okay? So let's go on with the next matter on our docket, which is 2 Windmill Way. When you're ready, Mr. Lucky, you can proceed.
2 Windmill Way is roll number 01-005-162-100. Here we have a multi-building, almost like a townhouse complex, stacked townhouses or walk-up apartments. 2 stories. Built in 1979, and Windmill Way is right at Roblin Boulevard and the perimeter. Right at, I guess that's the Westdale side of Charleston. There's 200 suites. We have a mix of, on page 3, of 101 bedrooms, 92 bedrooms, and 10 3-bedrooms. Our average income per unit is 1,052. So we've done this on the income approach like we have for all. Oh, excuse me. Model vacancy and expenses, 5% capitalization rate, and arrived at a value of $26,373,000 or $131,865 per unit. Page 4, we have some comparable rentals for you. I would ask that you maintain the assessment.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. DeBon?
No question.
Ms. Terry, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, and I guess the same question we had in the other one, again, here, we have a building that was built in 1979, so is that 78, no, 88, I think, or 98 was the year of change. Why do we have a 5% cap on this?
This building, I guess 1979 is, again, it's a fairly modern building and it's a large complex. 200 units. It's a substantial property, good investment, quality, property, 5% cap would be reasonable, I would think.
Yeah, okay, just follow up the West, because Alpine, we had a 5.3 cap, which also was a very nice property, and I'm just wondering how the model distinguishes between a property like Alpine that was, built in the 70s as well, earlier 70s too, but still, I think that was 1970 if I remember correctly. 16 or 70 anyway, and this.
So I'm not sure why one would be 5.3 and one would be 5. Not sure.
Okay, but you don't do the model, so thanks. Okay, Ms.
Sorry, I do have a question. You mentioned that it was a modern building. It was built in '79, so have there been upgrades to this property? It's 40 years old.
I don't have any permit information, but I've driven by it, but looks like a fair amount of repair and maintenance has been done, and I would expect it to be in good condition.
Typically, your model shows actual year built and effective year built, but we've seen for the last couple that there's been no change to effective age of the property.
Buildings where we change the effective age are buildings typically that have had significant upgrading, or where the assessor deemed it was required.
And when would the assessor deem it would be required?
Oh, excuse me, my sandwich must have mustard, I think I'm allergic to mustard, that's why I keep
dear.
coughing.
Oh dear.
I'll be fine, it's just I'm coughing a lot. You're gonna see them more in buildings that are significantly, where they had to take permits out to do major upgrading to the not structure, but mechanical and bathrooms and like complete retrofits. To do regular maintenance, they don't need to do permits. So if they're just changing the kitchen cupboards and toilets and sinks and all that, there's no permits required. But if they're doing major upgrading, like maybe doing the opening a wall for the kitchen to do the, whatever they call that, where the kitchen overlooks the dining, or the living room and whatnot, those permits are required.
Okay.
So those are major.
So this would suggest there's been no significant,
Right.
major, complete retrofitting of this
Right.
property.
If they changed the windows or if they did the roof or all those kind of things.
Permits not
permits.
required. Thank
But
you for
it doesn't
clarifying.
get triggered for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's all the questions we have then.
Thank you.
Mr. Bond, you can proceed.
Capri site phase 2. You'll see the 2020 assessor, 2020 good locations. So we did about 100 properties and tried to figure out what kind of cap rate the assessor had, what kind of categories they had. And this is what we came up with. So that the 46 to 59, the assessor good location 4.6, 5.3. 60 to 74,
Sorry,
5.3.
Excuse me, where are you?
So-
What page are you on?
Page 2 of the cap rate.
Page 2?
Right. So the dividing line for the assessor is 1975. That's where the cap rate decreases to 5 from 5.3. And they have the same cap rate whether it's low rise or high rise. So there's no difference in the assessor. So it's strictly 1975 to 97 is 5% of the high end, and 1998 plus 5%. And under the remarks, we say that the assessment department has variations depending on the number of units less than or equal to 10 or 11 to 19. The low cap rates, 4.6, 4.2, is only based on number of units. So the lower the number of units, the lower the cap rate. So anything over 20 units will be at the high end of their cap rates, 5.3, 5.3. So therefore, some cap rates are only applied to small units under 20 unit, under 20. So to answer some of your questions, so that strictly based on age, 1975 is their dividing line.
Thank you.
So page one of our brief shows the photo. So you'll see there that wood frame building. Page two, aerial photo shows multi-building, windmill way and a robin at the perimeter. You'll see in the middle of that little photo is a little pool, an outdoor pool. So they have which is captured in the rents and the value, but also means more repair and maintenance usually. And you see all these roofs, they have many roofs to take care of, and parking, etc. So it's one of these multi-tenant buildings. Page 3 shows the map and another photo. Quickly go to the appendix, so the page 12, 2017. Repair and maintenance is shown there, one line, 280,000. 2016, similar statement. The line repair and maintenance in 2015, the same thing. Now there your spreadsheet on page 7. So line 1 showed the income. So the income is pretty steady. It's going up gradually. The vacancy at 2.8, 1.3, 2.3, average 2.1. We went with the assessor's market at 2.4%. We gave no bad debt. Parking, we used the high end, which is 2017, 106, and 2-year miscellaneous income. So we ended up at 2254, which is slightly more than the actual 2017. And it's lower than the assessor, so it's based on site specific. Now I didn't show, but the line 3, the rent divided by the number of suites in 12 months is 921. So it's not that high rent. It's 921. Actually, it's relatively low rents. I would say relatively low. That it should be over 1,000. And then we stabilize repair the expenses normal way. The line 25 waste and snow is 63,000 that year, but we went with the 3-year average of 52, which is 11,000 less. Repair maintenance, we have 5 years. We average the 5 years, which is 1413 per suite, which is at the low end. Most of the properties listed today that are those that have appraised so far would be higher than that, and for the garden style apartments, they're close to 2,500, and I believe this one is at the lower end of the repair and maintenance because they're at the lower end of the rent, so the rents match the level of repair and maintenance. Wages and caretaking, 168, 175, 152. We stabilize 152. Normally we stabilize caretaking at the 2017 because it captures the rates that are getting, etc. However, when the caretaking includes also some repair and maintenance or other items that could vary, we usually go 3 years. So on this one, I'm changing my stabilization to a 3-year. I'm using 165, 642, so it's a verbal change. So that reduces our NOI by 13,298. So my revised NOI is 1,127,794. And my revised value is 18,797.
Can you repeat that NOI, please?
1,127,794.
794. Okay, thank you.
Can you just tell me again what you changed?
I changed line 28 to the 3-year average, 165, 642, instead of 152, 344. So that decreases the net income by $13,298. Yeah, I mean, that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions of, no, Mr. Terry?
No questions.
Is this it?
No questions?
Okay, so you took wages and benefits this time, and, which I see is basically somewhat sporadic, but mostly trending downward. And notwithstanding that, this time, because it gives you a better figure, you seem to have stabilized it and used the higher figure.
Right, I did check that in the past, and I found out that it was not strictly caretaking. They had other leasing commissions and repair maintenance, so from past knowledge, I realize now that that particular item should have been stabilized at the 3-year average.
Okay, so, and by doing that, of course, you get a lower NOI, so when you think about the cap rate, you're gonna get a lower valuation.
Right, it works to my advantage, but I'm
Yeah.
saying that the waste and snow is worked to our disadvantage by using the 3-year average.
And that's why I'm having a difficulty with some of your figures, because it seems to me that, you know, they can't be manipulated based on what you decide to do. You know, and we're trying to attribute values using an NOI, and I see basically no basis on when you decide to do one thing or the other. Sometimes you stabilize, sometimes you don't, but it seems to be your advantage, though. I see areas where, anyway,
Which I've told you before, so normally items that we do in the last years, the rent, the insurance, the taxes, the caretaker, those are utilities. Those are the normal that we do, so that if we
Okay.
vary from that, it's difficult. So that, I mean, very consistent, and when I do vary, I try to give an explanation. So
okay,
this
thank you
time-
very much.
This time I gave an explanation. Thank you.
Okay, we're next going to go on to 200 Addison Drive. Oh. When you're ready, Mr. Rucker.
Thank you. 200 Addison Drive, the roll number is 0500-4558-400. We have a high-rise, 10-story building built in 1976. There's 176 units. This is located somewhat in the middle of the Maples. It's one of the most significant high-rise apartment buildings in the Maples, in my opinion. You'll see the site plans, there's in-ground pools and whatnot, and the fellow that sits next to me lived here for quite a few years. That sits next to me at work. There's 27 one-bedrooms, 149 two-bedrooms, for a total of 176. We have an average monthly overall income of $1,098. Model vacancy and expenses, 5% cap. And I would ask that you maintain this building, the value.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dupont, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Terry, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Is this?
No questions, no.
Okay, I'm just wondering on this one, I see there's the 3% vacancy of the model chooses. How does it determine model? I understand myself that,
How does
I just happen to know that the Maple seems to be a really good place for it, and,
How does the model choose the?
yeah, how does it choose a vacancy factor, do you know? Because in others, you had 2.2, 2.4,
It chooses it by area, I believe.
is that?
Yeah. I think they factor in what the returns are telling them and what CMHC averages are.
So it's based on the mailers you get back and you get.
Mailers, CMHC discussions, we have some input, I think.
Okay, and here's a building that's built in the 1970s, and again, we're down to 5%,
Right.
rather than other properties we had earlier that were 5.3 that seem to be good properties still. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of right at, kind of a trigger in the 70s.
Okay.
But, I mean, if you look at the market, experts, you know, they're suggesting that our cap rates are within range.
No, I understand, I'm just wondering, I'm not saying that the city's cap rates aren't, I'm just wondering from one property to another, how the model sometimes chooses one amount and for another property, which I find I can't discern really, why we choose another.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
you know, you're talking like a couple of years difference, that 0.3%.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know, that's fair. I
And
mean,
that's
you're-
the problem, yeah, these cliffs, you
Yeah.
kind of drop off. Maybe they should all be 5.
Yeah, yeah, maybe should.
You got a sense of humor.
Well, everybody has.
Um, So that's my question, so I guess you can go on with your brief, Mr. Dupont.
Okay.
Sorry, I disturbed everybody here, including myself.
No problem. Page 1, you'll see the photo. So it has 2 buildings on the side which are 4 stories, so they're low rise, and then the one building in the middle is the high rise. If you look along here, page 2, the aerial photo, you'll see that the 2 brown roofs are the low rises and the one in the middle is the high rise. And it has an outdoor pool, you see on the left, a little blue, and it has a tennis court. Outdoor pool, sauna, and tennis court. These are features that capture in the rent, but it also is captured in the required maintenance, more required maintenance required. Page 3 shows the area where it is. In the Maple, so it's adds some of your pipeline. So the cap rate is built 1976, so we go 6%. We say the assessor cap rate actually is shown there, that the 46 to 59 is 5.3, and 60 to 74 is 5.3, and then the bump it up, bring it down at 5% after 1975. So that's their dividing line is 1975. And it doesn't matter what's low rise or high rise, they have the same cap rate. It's strictly based on the age that the assessor has. The repair and maintenance is page 7. The financial statements is from the accountants, from below. So, Phoenix, so if you look at the financial statements, page 12. So the repair maintenance that they have, it's shown under maintenance and decorating, 454116, 2017, 535 for 2016. And if you look at our page 8, you'll see that these two figures are there. 523 and 437. So we don't go with the accountants. We go less than that. So page 7. For Phoenix Properties, we have the general ledgers, which are every expense is listed, which is usually like a 100-page report. And we put down on this spreadsheet, on page 7. We show 5 years of actuals, and then we show a 5-year average, and then we show what we stabilize at. We show it per suite, then we show the comments as to what we used. Items in red here, we disallow those particular items in our average. So appliance purchases where they have 51,000, we disallow that amount. We disallow the 38 and the 40. We average the 2 years, 33 and 21, to get 27,000. And the per suite basis, it comes to 155. And if you recall, which we have here again, we have the email from Avram Chirac, K4, that says the average cost for appliances is $16.70 or something. And so the 10-year life maximum should be 167. So that when we stabilize the appliances, we did it on purpose to come to maximum or under the maximum 167. Carpet maintenance also, we disallowed all those 4 years. We ended up at the 2017 level. That comes to 296. But if you look at the actual carpet maintenance, it's a lot higher than that. But there again, we're below the $400 maximum that we have from data we obtained from K4 to what the normal is. For general building, we disallowed a lot of these large items. We ended up at 59,000, which is the average times 40%. So we discounted that tremendously. Under painting is always allowed. But we thought the painting was high for 3 years. So we disallowed those two. And we used 2016, 2017 times 50%. So we brought the painting down to 44,000, even though it averaged 120,000. So I believe it's quite reasonable on our part to do it that way. The refuse and snow, we disallow on our average because we categorize that separately. So then when we add up all the items that we've stabilized, it comes to 346,000. You can see the actuals that they had, the total, that's 641. Then we have the total list CapEx and the waste and snow, which is the two items in blue. That's what they actually spent. But after we stabilized, so they spent $3,096 per suite, but after we stabilized each individual item, we ended up at 1967 per suite. So I believe that would be a reasonable amount, and that's what we put on our page 8, 927. Notice that on line 3, the actual rent they're getting is $11.28 per suite, which I believe is quite high rent, and any rent over 1,000 is high. So they're getting relatively high rents there, and part of the reason they get those high rents is because they have the high maintenance, so the repairing maintenance matches their rents. So it's necessary to maintain those rents. If you look at vacancy, line 5, it was 7%, 2015, 2.6, 2.0. Average 4.5, but we stabilized at 3%, which is less than the average to our disadvantage, but we're using the assessor's market rent, which happens all to equal the 2017. They have a substantial amount of bad debt, but we did not allow anything for bad debt. We captured that in the vacancy and bad debt allowance. And I believe most of the other items are stabilized in a normal fashion. And it shows which items we did the average and which one we did 2017, etc. So we have the NOI line 33, 1078 versus the assessor 1203. Divided by cap rate comes to 17,971. And that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Lucky?
No.
Mr. Terrian?
No questions.
Ms. Nisbet?
No questions.
And I don't have any questions either this time, so. Give us just a minute. Okay,
Oh, yes.
now we're on, I think, the last matter on our agenda,
160 Harbury.
which is 160 Hartway, that's correct. When you're ready.
$160 Hargrave Street, Holiday Towers South, is roll number 120-934-34300. And this is one of two towers. This one's 26 stories. It was built in 1973, and it's right in the sort of cluster of the convention center and true north, all that kind of stuff. So it's, I would say, prime location. There's 246 suites. It's a dual income, so the apartment section, cost code 20 on page 3. As I said, there's 246, there's 96 bachelors, 96 one, and 54 two bedrooms. Overall income of $961, call it $62. Model vacancy and model expense of 5.3. Capitalization gives us a value of $25,191,000 or $102,000 a unit, which is at the low end for a high-rise masonry building. The retail section, we're using potential rent of $37,202. Based on their return, the actual is $59,204. So I would say that we're low on that, and I would ask that you maintain our commercial section as well of 446,000 or 447,000 rounded. That's all I would have to say on that.
Thank you, Mr. Lucky. Any questions, Mr. Dupont?
Yes, you don't show anywhere the rent roll provided to you on the commercial by the owner.
I have the return, that shows, line 3 is commercial revenue, 59,204. And then commercial expense, $440. Your income and expense statement.
So you're talking about your page, well, you don't have a page, 2017 actual.
Pardon me?
You're talking about the revenue and expense for December 2017?
Right.
Okay. So page 1, the leasable area shown there's 3088, so that's what you use for your commercial area. Would you agree with that?
The leasable area,
Yes.
sorry, what page are you on?
Your first page,
Page 3 or 1? Or?
page 1,
Oh, okay.
leasable area, on the right side, bottom, 3088, so that's your commercial,
Okay.
right? On page 3, you show the rent, potential rent, 37202,
Right.
and divide by 3088, it would be 1204 per square foot is your rent for commercial. You would agree with that?
So 37,202 divided by 3088 equals $12. Yeah.
Do you know for a fact whether any of your square footage that you have includes the owner's leasing office?
I checked the notes and there was one of our assessors was out to see the building in 2017 and he corrected the areas.
From 8,600 or so down to 3088?
Whatever it is, yeah, I take his word for it, he corrected and is, unless they've changed the areas since.
And the note does not say whether that includes the owner's leasing office or not?
It says that he deleted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, which are tenants. It doesn't say how he's dealt with the rental office that's there.
That's all questions.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Terry?
Well, thank you.
Does this been any questions? Okay, I don't have any questions either.
Go to the appendix. I have a large appendix. And I hope you don't spend too much time, but I will,
Appendix on your
my brief.
cap study or your brief?
My brief.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go through the cap rate. Starting page 12,
Okay.
that's a rent roll,
Okay, just,
12.
I don't have a large pen.
Well, that's all I have.
It's attached to the
That's what he meant, I think.
page, starting page 12.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Hmm.
Yours is thicker, so I thought I was missing something.
Okay, you have the rent roll, page
I
12.
got 59 pages total in my report.
59?
Oh, no.
We
No.
have 27.
We got
Well,
27.
mine, last page does say 59, but
27.
I'm not sure. But the page before that says 26, so maybe yours says 59, but maybe if you look
Oh,
at
it
what's
says
before.
58 here.
So it goes from
But then-
26 to 59,
Yeah.
58 and 59.
Oh, so you jumped from 26 to, okay.
Okay.
26, then we
I think you
go-
said the number irregularity, but I think that we have the same pages.
All right, so maybe I didn't combine all the
No,
pages,
it's got
okay.
Oh, it's got more pages.
Well,
Okay.
don't have them, that's it.
Okay,
28 might be.
they'll have to take my word for certain things. So page 12,
Okay,
it's a rent roll, page
page
12.
12 we have.
Yeah. So the Amaranti, that's the Unicuts. And it shows that the rents it has, 940, and there's no commercial rent, other than that, no CAM. Area rented, I have a Circle, 480 square feet. The next one's Downtown Holiday Food, and they have commercial rent, the 1690, then they have two other commercial rents, which are 945. And that's the overhead, so the note overhead is not mine, that's the owner's notes. That's 1120 square feet. They have some other areas, and my writing is that the one 490 square feet plumbing area, the other was a senior's rec room, one's a lunchroom. We had appealed those areas in the past, and the assessor inspected, and he agreed that a lot of these areas are now common rooms. So the assessor's now to T088. There's only two tenants listed, 480 and 1120 square feet. The remainder is the owner's leasing office, so we don't count it as leasable. Page 13, that's the end of the rent roll, and it shows that they have antenna, Pinnacle Towers, Canada, times 12, that's 16,404. And then at the bottom I have some notes. See the commercial rents, 4942 times 12 is 59,204. That figure will show up on the financial statements. I break it down as to where that 59,204 comes from. It comes from Unicuts, 940 rent, Holiday Food, 1690 rent, and then the Holiday Food had 945 in CAM, if you recall. Times 12 is 42,000 plus the antenna is 59,304. So that's their income. Antenna we will show under residential. Page 13A is from the 2018 assessors report. Show where we got our data. The assessor is not showing it this time. But nevertheless, we have the 1120 and the 480 or 490 square feet that they're renting, and the 1488 is the owner's leasing office. It says the original square feet was 8601, and the assessor inspected and agreed to reduce the square footage to 3088. So this is the 2018. So the assessor had recommended 3088 square feet at that hearing. But now we're disputing the fact that 1488 is not in the rent roll, and it's the leasing office. Then we show the 2016, page 13B is the, shows the Pinnacle Towers again. On page 14, the financial statements, and they have, and I have the notes on top, it's not furnished. They have the revenue, rental revenue, 1909. If you look at our page 7, line 1, 1909 shows up there. That's where we get our data.
What line are we looking at?
Line 1, 2017, 1909, 520.
Hold it, page
So page 14 is where we got our data for 19.
Page 14.
Yeah, right on top says income,
Oh,
1909, 520.
oh yeah, well, you were back to residential now.
Well, the commercials there.
It does show commercials 59204 on page 14 also.
Looking at the wrong pages, that's why.
I don't know.
I don't know which one,
It's hard to follow you guys.
Okay,
We're talking commercial, then we're jumping to residential. I don't understand.
okay, here. 1909,
That's on page 14.
14. And commercial.
They have furnished and unfurnished suites, so that's the complication we have with this one. And there is commercial. But the commercial from the rent roll, I broke it down to 59,204. And there's 16,404, which is the roof antenna. That is shown clearly on the financial statement. So therefore, on my page 7, I do show the commercial rooftop antenna, line 11.
So
16,404.
where are you showing the roof antenna as in
Line 11 on my page 7.
page 7,
Yeah, roof again, yeah, okay.
line 11?
Got it.
And then on line 12, I say commercial is separate income streams. I don't show the commercial income on this page because this is the residential page. I do accept the rooftop antenna as being part of the residential portion. So we're all following now,
More or less.
more or less? Okay. Page 17, the 2017. They have separate statements for that. They show rent furnished suite 1413. So that includes the rental value for the furniture. And we've established a long time ago at the municipal board that the premium they charge for furniture is not real estate, it should be excluded. So we will go to the exercise to exclude the furniture premium and attach a rent that you would rent for if it were not furnished. So we're giving the realty rent for that. So we bring the rents down to the unfurnished part, so we have to exclude also the maid service, other expenses which are not related to the realty. So we say on page 17, we exclude maid service. So on page 20, we have the rent roll for each of those suites. We have the what the rent is per suite. Break it down what it is for the studio, 780, which is unfurnished rents, 1 bedroom, 910, 2 bedrooms, 1240. And multiply that by the number of furnished suites. We get the realty value for those 74 suites is 69,000. 033 times 12 is 828,399, and that's the figure that shows on my page 7, line 3. So line 23 was the suite numbers that were furnished. And it shows which suite numbers they are, whether they're studios, 1 bedrooms, etc. But you still have those, page 24. Those are the list of the 2 bedrooms, etc. 25, we have the 2016 statements, 26, 2016. And I don't know if you have page 27 or not, but that's the 2016 revenue and expense. So we went through the whole exercise for the furnished suite each and every year. And if you have page 59, that gives you the floor plan that they have that was provided to us, which was provided to the assessor for 2018, showing that some of these square footage they have in their rent roll is for a senior's room or plumbing area, etc., lunchroom. The leasing office is shown there, bottom right.
Sorry,
Page
where is this?
59.
59?
So bottom left is downtown Holiday Foods, 1120 square feet, and then the Unicuts is 480 square feet. And the other leasing office is 1,500 square feet. So if you leave, that leasing office is not a rentable area, and the assessor is showing it as rentable, so we believe it should be removed as rentable. Maybe too quick for you to agree to that, but our page 4 indicates that the assessor has 1,488 square feet, which is the 1,500 shown on that plan, that's the leasing office. And that plan does not show any other tenants there. It shows Downtown Foods and Unicuts. So that, I believe it's clear that those are the only two commercial tenants. So, back to page 7 then. So line 1, we'd have 1909, which we had the Program 1 statement, which I showed you how we arrived at, and then line 3, the furnished of the realty, the rent is including furniture premium, and so we have total line 3, 2,735,000, which is slightly less than the assessor. Line 1, so the rental per suite is 913, and when we go line 3, the rental per suite is 920, so slightly higher actually, but it should be similar depending on the suite mix, etc. The vacancy, 0.9 to 0.8, 3.5, so it's actually 3.5 for 2017, but we stabilize at 3%, which is the same as the assessor market vacancy, so slightly less than actual. We don't allow anything for bad debt. Laundry is actual 2017, so is the rooftop antenna, 16 total floor. Miscellaneous income, we went with the actual 2017. The expenses, if you go top right, you look at the total commercial or residential area is 210,055. Commercial area, 1,600 square feet, is only 0.76% square feet. So we allow these expensive mixes, the commercial and residential expenses. So a lot of these expenses we multiply by 99.24. So for the insurance, it's 15,130, and multiply by 99.24, we get 15,015. So it's a slight adjustment to remove the commercial expenses. We're actually removing 0.76% of those expenses. So the wages and admin, we're going with the commercial. I gotta see which one we're doing here. Yeah, 2017 is commercial portion, so it's a small adjustment downward. Advertising, we're not allowing any advertising for commercial. We use a 3-year average. And the utilities, we're using the actual 2017 less 0.76 for the commercial. So 463 actual, we're down to 459 is stabilized. Security or snow, we're giving it to the residential security intercom to residential repair maintenance. 2013, 2017 is 1316 per suite, which is quite low for high rise. It's actually very, very low. Nevertheless, it's what we allowed. It's the 5-year average. That's what we allowed. We allow the caretaking costs, the taxes we calculated. Actual taxes on the financial statements, 282,000. At the bottom, we do the calculations, the assessment, times mill rate, etc. for 2017, 270,000. So that's what we allowed on page 7. So the expense ratio is 55% versus the assessment 51. So our NOI is 1,218,000 versus the assessor 1,335. So we have less NOI. A 6% cap rate comes to a value of 20,301. 1. The commercial is page 8. We use the actual rent from the rent rolls. Yeah, we did a mistake there. The Unicuts were shown as the gross rent, $17. Oh no, $23.50, sorry, and minus the $6.50, the shortfall rate brings the rent up to 17, so that's what we use. And Downtown Holiday Foods is shown as the net rent, and that's what we use, $18.11. So we have 1,600 to 1,778. It's higher rent than the assessor. The assessor, if you recall, is 1,204. So we have a higher rent per square foot, but less square footage. And we use the assessor's cap rate, 7.4, the assessor's shortfall. So our indicated market value is 327 versus the assessor of 447. And I believe that would be correct. The assessor page 3 is 447, and they are using 7.4% cap rate. So at the bottom it shows that we distribute the rentable area because it's the leasing office for the office. We have higher rent per square foot, but less rentable area. So that's my full report. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Lucky?
Sorry, my head's just kind of spinning here.
It's that kind of day.
That's why we give that report to you ahead of time, so you have 2 weeks to study it.
Well, I guess, last time we agreed on, I thought, 3,000 square feet. But irregardless of all these calculations and everything else, the thing I can't get my head around is they're telling us,
Are you asking a question right now?
I'm getting to it.
Okay.
Oh,
They're telling us in their INE that their commercial rent is $59,204.
Okay, when you're asking questions, if you want to make a summation, I'll let you do that, but if you're asking questions.
well, no, I can see that.
Here's the
but-
question
Yeah.
coming. So you're saying that the 16.4 antenna should be on the residential side?
Right.
What's the difference? Why?
Lower cap rate.
It's commercial income.
It's lower cap rate.
It's not an apartment.
Make them pay.
The commercial antennas will be on apartments that have no commercial. It will be residential. So we virtually always do the antenna
Okay, that-
on the residential
that's what
side,
you
especially when you have only
It's what
60
you
square
always
feet.
do. This is commercial rent, but irregardless,
No, I
Irregardless.
would disagree with that
they're
strongly.
collecting 42,800 beyond the antenna. So we're
Right.
not putting the antenna on the other side, but even if we did, the 42,800 that they're collecting is drastically higher than what you're saying. And why is that?
That went to it on page 13, that the
I'm looking on
Unicuts.
page 8, and I don't see 42,800 anywhere as income.
Oh, yeah. And because on page 13, I went with the rent roll. I separated this 59,204. Part of that is rent, part of that is the holiday downtown First cam. And so their rent plus their cam adds up to 42,900. And Unicuts pays no expenses. And so page 12 is the rent roll, and so Unicuts pays no expenses, pays strictly rent. And the page 12 of the rent roll shows that the Holiday Foods pays $16.90 rent and $9.45 and camp. So it's all explained.
Well, this is inconsistent information, sorry. The only place that they're showing us commercial expense is $440, the line item on the income and expense statement. They're telling us, and if you're giving us inconsistent consistent information with what they're telling us, we can't be held accountable. Their commercial income's $59,000, their commercial expense is $440. And what, you know, whether you run that through using the 7% or the 2%, which is another story, you seem to be completely using different numbers than what the owners are telling us.
Absolutely not. I added everything and that adds up. The 59,204 is explained totally in the rent roll. I went to the calculations, the exercise to try to break that down, and it shows they have CAM recovery, and part of the expenses, they mix the commercial expenses with the residential, and I allow 0.76% for commercial and off my residential page. And then we calculate the expenses at $6.50 per square foot from the commercial, and we end up with rents that are much higher than the assessor.
So this,
So we got 18 something per square foot, we have 1778 per square foot rent.
well, aside from that, the rental office that's in there, do they only collect rent and answer calls for this building?
Yes, it's for the operation of this building.
Just this building?
Yes, WRE has their own head office elsewhere.
Do they own the building next door?
When somebody Hargrave, yes.
Do they have a separate leasing office?
That I don't know, but whatever, if it's also helping the other office, it's not an income producing space.
That's commercial space. And it's not specifically just for this building.
No, any leasing office for an apartment is not given a rental rate.
So
You know that, a lot of those high rises have a leasing office, they virtually all do.
Okay,
They don't operate out of the caretaker suite, so most of them have a leasing office so that they collect the rents of the leasing office.
so the 59,204 minus 16,404 for the rooftop, are they counting commercial space rental in that 59,000 or not? Or just the space that they're renting out to the food store and the hairdresser?
My calculation on page 13, so I don't know what your question is.
Well, I'm saying, they're not claiming the commercial space as income, right? Yet they're collecting 59,000.
They're claiming Unicuts and the holiday
Right.
foods as income, so
Right, yeah.
what commercial space are not
Well,
included?
what I'm saying is you're not disallowing, like, there's no part of that 59,000 is for the rental office.
No, it's just that
Okay.
they don't charge themselves rent for the leasing office.
Have you seen the presentation on 5 and 2%?
Yeah.
Many times.
I'll hand it out. And I'll leave that with you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Terry, any questions?
Well, not sure I'm as clear as mud for me, but if I go back to the city's presentation on page 5, I'm sorry to go to that, but I'm looking at the tenants here. And at the top of that page, it talks about Manitoba Quality Network, Coughlin and
Oh,
Associates.
sorry, those are my rental comparables.
Oh, it's the comparables?
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
sorry.
Okay, well, I got a wrong question then. Okay, then I'll go to your page 13 of the assessment, of the appellate. Because I was trying to make sense of how I can compare the city. Now, on page 13, you show Unicut's 940, that's the bottom there, and Holiday Food 1690.
That's the rent, yes.
1690, that's $2,630 of rent
Yes.
per month,
Per month.
times 12.
Yes.
Does that give you the 24,000 that you've got, 28,000 that you got as income? I haven't worked that out, but I was just trying to make comparisons here. Times 12, because we gotta simplify this stuff. 31,560. You've got 28,440 on your page 8.
Right.
So, what am I gonna make sense of your 2630 versus your 28,440 on page 8? Well, I'm sorry, what I see on page 13 is $31,560. No?
Good question. So this, Unicuts, if you look at the net contract rent,
But
net-
I'm reading your recap, because you're recapping your 59,304 on page 13.
yes,
And you show 940 and 1690 as rent.
right,
So to me, 2630 times 12 equals 31,560.
which is gross rent. So that's the explanation. So Unicuts pays no expenses. So there, my page 8 shows the face rent per square foot, 2350. And I'm allowing 650 for unrecovered expenses, which nets out to $17. And that's why my net rent is 28,440. Was the 31,000 includes some gross. So we always have to net out the rents when we get the valuation.
So you're showing 1,600 as rental area, I guess. Is what I read somewhere, yeah. No, 1,500?
1,600, which is 480 and 1120 square feet, yes.
Now, where did I take the 1,488? I had 3,088 less 1,488 gave me 1,600. Where did I pick that up?
The 1488 is what the assessor had, which I shown page 13A. For 2018, they had the 1120, 480, which are the actual leases, and they have 1488, which is not on the rent roll, and it's shown on my page 59 as being the leasing office.
So 3,088 less 1,488 is 1,600,
Right.
and you're using 1,500. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if
It's okay,
I,
no, please go
I'm
on.
just trying to make sense to what I read here.
Right, so.
So
we
any
excluded-
correlation between the 1,500 and the 1,600 square feet or not?
No, 1120 and 480 square feet is the rental area, 1,600, which we agree with the assessor. 1488 is the leasing office, as per the assessor, and it's 1,500 as per the floor plan on page 59.
So that's 2,988 square feet.
3,088.
No. Unless I'm doing this wrong. If you've got 1,500.
Oh, yeah, I said 1488, it would be 3,100 if you had an extra 12 square feet. Whether the leasing office is 1488 or 1500 doesn't really matter to me, it
That's
should be
not what
removed,
I'm,
should be
that's not what
removed.
I'm saying. What
Okay.
I'm saying is you're showing the rent roll as 1,500 square feet. That's what you're working out on page 8. 480, 1120 is 1,500 square feet,
Oh, so-
correct?
No, it's 1600.
Well, 480 and 1120, oh, that's 1,600, my mistake. Okay,
Good.
okay, my mistake.
Is this good?
I was off by 100.
Yeah, I think you're done, Luis? Do
Uh,
you have any other questions?
Well, on the residential, well, you're fairly close on the effective gross income. You've got a different percentage. No, I think I'm okay.
Is this good,
Thank
questions?
you.
Yeah, can you explain to me about the rooftop antenna and
Oh,
why you
okay.
put that in a residential class when it's a commercial stream?
Right. It depends what building it's on. If you have a rooftop antenna on top of an apartment building, it would be, it's always residential income stream, because it's part of the apartment. If you have a rooftop antenna on top of an office building, it would be commercial. Depends where it is.
So does I'm kind of, this is the first time I've heard about antennas, so does the antenna on top of the building service that building?
No, it does not. It's rented to Rogers or Bell,
Could be
whatever.
for
Yeah, and it doesn't help the operation of the building whatsoever. So we've had arguments in the past as to whether it's actual income or not. But as a buyer, you would consider that income because it exists and you have a lease with Bell for 20 years. That income is there. So the assessor is saying, well, it should be commercial. And I'm saying 99.24% of the square footage is residential. So therefore, the rooftop antenna.
So you've done an allocation on that basis?
Yeah, we put it into the residential. The assessor does not have an income stream for a rooftop antenna.
That's what
They
I was.
don't.
That's what
They're
I was
commercial, they
looking
don't.
for. Right.
So it'd be different if they did, if they had the two tenants plus a rooftop antenna, but they don't. So therefore, I don't see their arguments. But 99.24% of this building is residential, therefore the rooftop antenna should be residential.
I have a further question when she's done.
Okay, well,
Yeah, and part of me is just trying to work through your numbers too, because they are complicated with the two income streams. And
Yes,
so just to recap, you're asking for a reduction in the square foot, despite the higher rent per square foot.
right.
So a reduction to 1,600 and a higher rent, using a higher rent of 1,778 gets you an NOI of 24,238, capped at 7.4. Am I tracking this properly?
Yes,
For an assessment of, on the class 60, of 327,546, rounded, of course, that would be a different, slightly different number.
yes,
And then on the class 20 side, you're looking for 23,010,000, or 2301. Do I have that right? Yeah.
right,
And then using that cap of 6.
right.
Okay. Okay, then I have followed the numbers
do you have any other questions?
to get to that. No, that's fine.
Mr. Terry, do you have any
Yeah,
questions?
I'm going back to page 7, you've got a remark at the bottom here. For tax calculations, 217 BOR, is that the Board of Revision?
Yes,
They had assessed it at 21,336,
that's
and
correct.
commercial at 446.
Right,
So for 21,782, that's what that is?
that's a total assessment, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
And that's what I'd used for my tax calculation at the bottom for the residential portion.
Okay, my turn?
So, I've got I need some questions answered to see where we're going here. So my first question is, and I think you'll agree with me, if you've got a, let's say, industrial building that's owner occupied, the city will then take rents for similar buildings, show a rent that is established by like buildings, and attribute our rent, even though the landlord's not, or the owner's not paying rent himself because he's occupying it. And it'll be taxed on the basis of what reasonable rent would be had he rented it out, based on the comparisons, correct?
Right.
Okay. And if you have an apartment building where the owner is actually living in one of the suites and not declaring income, he can't really do that, can he? Because he's got to attribute reasonable rent to the apartment that he's occupying, does he not?
You have to give a rent to that
Right.
building. yeah.
So you can't occupy for nothing.
To that suite, yeah.
Right, you can't, okay. And so, if you have a building, a tower, and it has an office, a leasing office in it, and it's not commercial, you can't really rent it to anybody else, so I can see why you would make a claim that it's not taxable, because it's just using that building as part of the operation.
It's necessary
Agree
for
with
the
that?
operation, yes.
Okay, so I think I'm good along. And then you have a building where you have two income streams. You actually have a mall portion where you have businesses, and you have offices you're actually renting out or could rent out. And the owner instead in that building decides to occupy it himself. And you're saying it doesn't matter even though it is rentable, and there's a rent that can be established for it. But in this case, we should exempt it and not pay anything for taxes on it because the owner in fact is occupying it. That's the logic that we're going here, right?
I would, I think, where you're going from, I would agree that if they have.
Well, no, I just answer the question, because I think it's very apparent. You're saying that we should not be charging rent on this, even though it's a commercial space that could be rented out, in this instance.
No, I'm saying it cannot be rented out, it's
Why?
necessary for the operation.
No, it could be rented out. If they decide to use it for the operation, they could occupy another space somewhere else, or if they had the building next door, they could actually operate an office out of that one for both buildings. They could. Now, you're saying that in this case, I just answered the question. You're saying in this instance here, in spite of what you've agreed to so far, you're asking me to go in a completely different direction, which I'm having difficulty doing.
If they were occupying 1,500 square feet for the leasing office and another 2,500 for their own office for other things, I would give a market rent for the 2,500. I will not give a market rent for the 1,500, which is necessary for the operation of the building.
Well, I don't know if it is or not, but in this instance, they could operate in another place, as I indicated, or they could have a central office where they do everything out of. I know a lot of landlords do that. K4 for one has a central office on Main Street where they operate everything out of, for
Well,
example.
yeah, that's a property
Yeah.
management office.
No, I understand.
Okay, we went to the, well, I actually have a decision here if you want to see it. We went to the municipal board on 200 Ronald as to whether the leasing office or the leasing charges should be lumped in with the management fee. And I did a major study with.
Okay, on Ronald, is there a separate buildings, is there a separate income stream that's commercial?
If I can finish, is that I had maybe 20 comparables of large apartments where they had a leasing office and they don't show any rent. So
No, I know, but there's a
it's quite
distinction.
common to have leasing
But there's
office.
a distinction though. The distinction is that here we have a commercial income stream with an office that is rentable and the owners decided to occupy it themselves. Just like if they occupied a suite, that you couldn't say, well, they have to pay rent on that anyway. I don't see the distinction, that's the difficulty I'm having. And if you told me on Ronald that they had a commercial stream and they were using one of these commercial offices for their own use and the municipal board said, no, you don't have to include that, that'd be another thing. But that's not what you're answering.
What the municipal board was saying is that any leasing
It's-
office that's necessary for the operation of the building should not be counted as an income stream because it's an expense.
Yeah, but this has got a zoning for commercial, and it's a commercial space that could be rented out.
Right,
And the owners
so-
decide to occupy it themselves.
Excuse me, that's not what they said. What they said was,
Who said, the municipal board?
the municipal board
Yeah, that's
decision,
it, yeah.
if you pull it out, it's not gonna say
I know.
that
It's
you
okay.
don't count rent on.
Okay, I'll ask the
suite.
question now, that's why I'm Mr. Lucky.
It, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. We'll consider this and get back to you.
It said to include the management, not include or exclude the office.
They
Rentable area.
agree with me. You want me to show the decision to the
But it
board?
was a different argument. It was a management argument, not rental argument.
It was a leasing cost administration and offices. Virtually all large apartment blocks have a leasing office, which is a lot more professional than having people go to a caretaker suite to collect rents and bring the leases. So large properties have a leasing office. If they had this inside the residential portion, there would be one suite with no income stream. It's the same thing. So if they did that, took one apartment off the market to have the leasing office, then they could rent the 1,500 out to the commercial. But they should have a leasing office. You should allow for the leasing office as being non-rentable, necessary for the operation.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that completes everything, I believe.
I don't know if they want to summarize or not, or are we done?
I guess the only thing, on this, we'd like, or I've been told we'd like an answer on the, percent, 2% and 5%. Our position is that it should be 2%, not 7% of the, shortfall.
Yeah, we've got your document. I think.
Good.
No, I haven't seen the document.
No.
We allow 5% in their commercial. Is it summation? Did you finish?
Well, the difference in the two income approaches, let alone the income, is that on page 3 of ours, there's a 2% expense of $699, whereas the Altus has a 5% of $1,337 plus a 2%. So our position is it should only be the 2%. And there's been a lot of commercial people with expertise arguing this. Thank you.
Do you have a wrap up?
Yeah, my estimation on the 5% is very small for properties like this where they have only small commercials. Our dispute's $1,337.
Right, that's the big one.
Yeah, that's why I didn't make a big deal.
It's not a big deal, but we've argued that extensively for large office buildings, et cetera. And I believe the board revision have gone both ways. And
Yeah,
we
it's just-
did, I believe Kerry Reimer, which has argued, said that we won 4 large hearings where the board granted the 5%.
Well, this year's new, I think the municipal board's gonna eventually move on it and we'll get
Yeah,
direction.
That's where it's going.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good weekends, everybody. It was
Yeah.
a bad day. I had 2 bad days this week, and I'm not blaming you, but.
Oh, me both times?
Supposed to stop snowing in the day, isn't it?
Okay.
I think the board asked too many questions.
Don't understand.
Oh, no, don't blame you. I'm just joking.
I have to go on the highway tomorrow.
Oh, you have to go on the highway?